The meeting of the Capital Outlay Committee for Wednesday, November 12th, 2025 at 11:05. Online, Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself?
She may be muted.
Okay, we have Michelle Gallucci, Scott Norum, Aldone,
Ann Tucker.
and Martha Donovan. I don't think I have, I'll just say this, that, you know, the town will be video and audio taping this meeting, and if anybody wants to video or audio tape, now would be the time to tell me. Hearing none. Okay, great. We don't have on the agenda to approve the minutes. I have a number of changes to the minutes. Anne has a change to the minutes, so I will collect any changes to the minutes, send them back to Judith, and then we'll put this on the meeting docket for next week. No, do we have one next week?
I believe so.
I think
No, we don't, not before Thanksgiving.
That's Thanksgiving. Oh my God, it's
no.
Thanksgiving already.
Next week we do.
We do, okay. So next week, we'll get the minutes approved. We're going to start the discussion with, we're going to have golf, harbor master, natural resources, and then the fire department's going to come in later. So why don't we have the golf group come first? And all I'm going to ask is you introduce yourselves, and in being in line with sort of where we're headed in town for our budget message, if you have new projects, just let us know which ones are new as you're going through them, so we have an idea of that.
Great. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mr. Schiavi. My name is Roman Greer. I'm the Director of Golf, and I'm joined by Sean Fernandez, our golf course superintendent.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
We have nothing on the capital outlay plan for FY27. We only have two items on the current five-year plan. FY29, we have a bunker renovation that has been on the capital plan for a few years. And then on FY30, we have a replacement of our original maintenance building. The bunker renovation is important. That'll be 20, if we do it in FY29, that'll be 23 years since the last time we did a full renovation of our bunkers, so they're more than due. And our plan is to pay for that out of the golf funds, out of our golf dedicated accounts. And I'll stop there and ask if any questions.
So the renovation of the bunkers was not on the plan last year, correct?
No, it has been, yes.
Yeah, it was on.
It's been moved, hasn't it, a couple times?
So
Wait a minute, what am I-
we are currently doing our irrigation upgrade.
Right.
And thank you for supporting that. That's we just went to contract on that last week. So that was on the capital plan for 5 years, actually 6 years. It got bumped 1 year.
Right.
Yeah.
But the bunkers have been on the capital plan for 5 years. I mean, I'm sorry, this began a 5-year cycle in FY20.
Okay, somewhere in the warrant, it's not in there for last year. That may just be an oversight, I don't know. Okay, all right, so not new.
It's not new, no, that's been
Okay.
on the capital
Okay.
plan.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the two projects of the golf? Scott?
Yes, so the second one for the building replacement does not explicitly say anywhere that financing would come from golf resources. But is that in fact the expectation? I know it's pretty far out there, but is the financing from golf resources?
No, so our bunker renovation is, and at this point,
Yep.
no, we were told when we put this on the capital plan that this would be a town obligation because it is a town building, but we have no expectation to pay for that out of the golf funds.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ann.
Question. So there are three buildings, it looks like, that are in our forecast, right? There's the DPW building, the golf building, and the water building, right?
Correct.
Are they in like a sequence of years? Are we going to spend 5 years building buildings? And is there any economies of scale for building two together or at the same time, or any savings that way? Since like the DPW building price keeps going up, things like that. So that's my question.
So
I believe, if you're not, Sean Libby would be
Yeah.
the gentleman that you would be talking to as far as facility manager, because he would be running that project, because he would be overseeing those buildings.
There's three, it seems to be three similar buildings. The water department building would be to house equipment and trucks. The DPW is equipment, trucks, and repair, and your equipment, correct?
Correct.
Right, so they seem similar to me. Don't get me wrong if they aren't, but it just, what's the sequence? We're doing DPW
DPW is in 2028,
28? Okay.
and the water building and the golf building are in 2030.
If I may, I'd probably just, each one of those obviously is standalone, which will have a separate, set of specifications, requirements, and all that, because
Right.
they're not, there
Not
are three
exactly
different
the same,
locations. Yeah,
yeah.
you're not going to really get an economy of scale, because you have to bid all those out.
And the use for them is different, and how they'll be designed is a little
Yeah,
different.
in terms of cost, you're not really going to save anything in terms of cost, because they're all, separately. I think what we're, going to be looking to do as we begin to look beyond 5 years, right, is to look at sequencing. I think we got to spend a lot more time on looking, because we got sewer projects, we have a number of different things, and the ability to keep going back to debt exclusions for all this, and that's why we showed the chart the other night, as we're trying to take a more analytical view of our debt schedule, to try to identify strategic points along that, bar chart where it makes sense to do some of these bigger borrowings. And now we may group some together potentially in order to try to, sort of more normalize and take out some of the spikes that we're currently seeing, so we don't end up with, big spikes and big valleys followed by big spikes. It's sort of, I think strategically, it makes a lot more sense to try to normalize some of our debt. So those type of things sort of all have to get pulled in together. We're just beginning to start to take a look at that, but that will, go beyond certainly my time here to the next administration to hopefully keep moving that forward and take into account what the select board's view is on some of this, the capital outlay committee's view on some of this, and, where we are going overall in terms of a lot of the bigger capital projects.
And
of
if
course,
we
throw the
decide to
schools
bring
in
in a consultant, if that
could be helpful.
yeah, to do
And
that.
add the schools into that too, so we're
Right,
just,
right.
again, I'll cover that at the end, just information I got from the schools. but-
Okay. And Sean Libby is involved in this project, right? Is he
Sean-
leading the,
Yeah.
yeah, Sean Libby.
Yes, he
Sean
is. In
Fernandez.
fact, last year's capital outlay plan had this building actually under his.
Oh, that's why I
That's
don't
why.
see it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
that was
thank
under
you.
the building facility maintenance. I don't know why that changed, but
I see, okay,
yes,
Thank you.
and he's the one that gave us a price quote as well of $2.5 million.
okay.
Okay.
How big is the building at?
So right now, the building is, the original building from 1973 was built and opened in 74. It is about 4,800 square feet.
Okay, and would you build it bigger, a little bigger?
Nope. The only thing we're going to do is keep it the same size. The only thing is, right now, the metal building goes right to the ground, so it's rusted out all along the bottom, no
okay.
drainage. So we would add a 4-foot, what we call knee wall,
Yeah.
like the new building that we had, and then put the building on top of that.
And would it be metal?
Yes.
It would be metal.
Yep.
They're all going to be metal.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, excuse me, a couple of questions. On the building itself, so the idea is that this new building would be fully heated or something? Is
No.
that what, it's just
Nope,
half
just
and half again?
Half and half. Cold storage in the back, warm up front, so we have a workshop to work for, T-signs, and all the other stuff that we do during the wintertime.
So physically, it goes in the same place? You're going to take the present one down and
Yep.
put the other one up, and it
Correct.
won't disrupt the parking lot or anything, right?
Nothing.
On the bunker issue, that's paid by income from the golf course, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
What about the building itself, the lunch area and the pro shop and so forth, the main building,
We call that the clubhouse.
The clubhouse?
clubhouse?
Yep.
What is the care status in your view of that? I don't play the golf course, but I was invited there, and I was concerned that I even went in and got the pro to come out and say, would you just step down here and take a look at this entrance? I found the entrance kind of disturbing. The stairs looked, the place looked like it needed some maintenance overhaul or repair or upgrade or something. What's the status on
I
that?
can tell you that. So we work with Sean Livy in the facility maintenance annually on projects. The front deck and stairs are tired, and they've been on for 2 years.
I'm tired, is right.
They've been on his plan to redo, repaint and all. The last year, they never got to it in the off-season, but, it's hard for them to schedule it in the off-season. We currently do have a work order in with them to repaint and.
Okay, so that's not going to be a cost capital outlay-wise,
No, it
our
won't be.
concern.
No,
Okay, but it's going to get done.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
And so
great.
we did all that work to the back porch of the golf course. 2 years ago, his crew came in and painted and redid the stairs, redid
did
the
the
railings. So we work with them constantly on that.
Okay.
And they pay for it out of their budget, not,
That they do, and we do have a little facility maintenance money in our budget as well. So it's not a capital outlay situation.
Right.
I believe we have $10,000 annually to upkeep the building, and then their budget has money as well.
And because we do a lot of rounds, it wears down quick. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
can
So when you got
understand.
40,000 people walking in
Yeah.
the same spot, so.
But I think just from an appearance standpoint, that would hit a home run.
Yes.
And what is the money that's generated net to the town from the
Yeah, how much does the golf course
produce?
make?
it's all about the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it quiet? Is,
Since I can't get around it.
You sound like you're trying to hide it here.
No. We officially break even every year, and so there's.
Yeah, but what's the real,
So, we generate about $200,000 a year in our dedicated funds for our projects, and that's paying the debt for our cart barn project, our irrigation project that we just went to contract on, and then our future project of the bunker renovation. So, and then on top of that, there's another few $100,000 annually that goes to the general fund. But as the town administrator can tell you, that covers employee costs, insurance, retirements, things like that as well, that are not allocated to our direct budget, annual budget.
maybe asking it differently, what's the gross it brings in? I think last year it was like $1 million or something.
So no, so like our budget was $1.9 million, and our revenue was around $2.4 million. And
That's
that's
up,
general
correct?
fund revenue. That does not count the contributions to our dedicated funds.
But when
Okay,
it
so-
goes back into the general fund, you say the excess will go back to the general fund.
Yes.
Does the golf committee get a sort of a blank check to use that money later?
No.
It's gone.
Gone.
It goes into
You
the
can't
half
put it in a
million?
revolving.
It's general fund revenue, and we have a lot of indirect costs. So we consider them indirect costs. They're the employee benefits, things like that are not direct costs in our budget. They're directly allocated to our budget.
So just to give you an idea, we don't have direct contact to any money. Everything that we get is approved either at town meeting or through the select board or through finance committee, all done. So like, let's say our project, the golf bunker project, we will go to town meeting, and the only difference is, like everyone else, and we will ask for the permission to spend. The only difference is, instead of raising appropriate from taxes, we're raising appropriate from the golf fund.
From the golf.
That's
Yeah.
it. Other than that, we still got to seek the same approval every year for everything that we do.
Well,
Everything gets approved through the town, at town meeting, through the selectmen.
I applaud you guys. The course is a terrific, I mean, it's such a great asset, and it's the first one on the Cape, right?
Yes, one of the first ones,
did it.
originals, yep.
And it's been maintained in just excellent condition.
Thank you.
I mean, you have a great,
We were recently ranked number 8 public access golf course in the state of Massachusetts.
Yep.
yeah, it should be.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll say this, is as I finish up my last couple of years, before I head off into the retirement world, one of the first things I said when I came here was to try to give you guys a private club, but on a public setting. And the first, I'd have to say, the first 5 or 6 years, it was a little bumpy, trying to convince the selectmen that, hey, listen, you have a gem here,
An
and that
asset.
we can charge a little bit more, tuck some of that money away to do the work, so we don't have to go to the tax base. And once we came up with that plan, it's worked very well, because what we do is we maintain the golf course to the best of our ability, but we don't go above and beyond. And what I mean by that is, we don't have it, we don't spend it. So we only spend what we can spend, and that is under the direction of the selectmen and the town administrator and the town meeting.
For the record, can you give us some numbers? You just said 40,000 people a year. Can you, and it's, how many, like, seasons passes?
I can give you those, I can give you round numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah,
This past year, we did 1,300 season passes. That includes Harwich residents and non-residents and juniors, all the different categories. About 800 of those were adult Harwich residents. About 100 were juniors, about 100 were, we have a few different categories, young adults, things like that, and about 100 were non-resident adults. We give a nice break for Harwich residents as well in all categories. And total rounds, about 44,000 a year.
44,000,
Yeah,
okay.
we were like very consistently at 39,000 before the pandemic, and we're pretty consistently 44,000 after the pandemic.
What's a round of golf costs?
Our like rack rate of midsummer, like 7 days a week in the midsummer, we're at $90 greens fee, $26 cart fee, so it'd be $116 per person.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tony.
And
Wait a minute, wait, Paul.
Just want to get back to the capital discussion.
Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
the finance committee. So related to the question about upkeep of the golf course, so one of the things I talked to the select board about, it wasn't last meeting, maybe the one before that, is looking to probably put some money aside to develop a long-range facilities master plan, right? That would basically take all of the town facilities, buildings, because it's our biggest asset.
Right.
To make sure that we're getting our full useful life out of our buildings, which goes to your point, Paul, about upkeep and maintenance, right? And so we did one of these at one of my other communities, and every building was ranked, condition index, from the envelope of the buildings to HVAC, everything soup to nuts, and helped develop part of that prioritization plan of the maintenance piece of all of the buildings that would get built into the capital plan, so that we could make sure that we were, for the taxpayers, getting the full useful life out of, those facilities. So that is something I'm encouraging the town to continue to try to move forward on. We'll have to put some money aside to do that.
Which was my point at the meeting.
We don't have it organically, that capability. I mean, we have a more or less a one-person facilities.
You do,
Which, again, I think goes to, perhaps a future need to restructure the facilities, where you have the facilities director doing a lot of that strategic planning, costing, and you have a facilities manager that's dealing with the different departments on work orders and helping to schedule and cost out, painting and, all those type of maintenance type things.
Yeah, because what I've said in town meeting is, one, we don't have funds for capital, right? We are lucky that we have some free cash to pay for. And I'm not talking about the sewer project, I'm just talking about day-to-day maintenance of buildings. And my other point has always been, the worst thing that's going to happen to us, or our biggest risk, is if a building deteriorates, the costs to replace these buildings today are huge. I mean, it's crazy. So we need to keep them in good stead so we can continue to use them and not have to replace them. That's the
Right.
major cost.
And one question I wanted to ask along that line is, yes, the buildings are an important asset, but the golf course is an important asset. And at one point, there was talk about adding 9 holes, right? Is that still on the table for some discussion in terms of sufficient land there to accommodate 9 additional holes?
We have a design that we hired an architect to do for 9 holes. So we do have 9 holes of like what you consider in the golf world a short course.
Yeah.
It's just 100-yard holes, par 3s. We do have that available, but it's not currently on the capital plan because it'd be considered like a golfer development area or a junior golf area that we would seek we'd seek outside funds for some grant money to pursue and things like that. We have seen some interest in pursuing grants in that area, but really at this point we don't see the need to pursue it. Really, we have the design if there's ever a greater demand for it.
But
We're in a phase where we're not adding new projects
And then
either,
that's,
so.
we're kind of we're following the
been
guidance.
around for 30 years.
The one you're talking about, which was the original done when I first
Right.
got to Cranberry Valley, that would not fly as now because conservation, we have too many vernal pools. So we have 14 vernal pools on the golf course, and the original was to go around the range, go behind the range, go down along Oak Street. There's too much conservation.
Okay.
So that plan kind of got scrapped because of the issues with the vernal pools and the I mean, just behind the driving range alone, the driving range abuts up
Yeah.
within the 100-foot buffer zone, so we
Okay.
wouldn't be able to do anything. So there was talk, because you can mitigate some stuff in conservation, but there's just too much to mitigate, I believe, at that time.
Because it would be a great source of additional income if you could get 9 more holes functioning. 27 holes is a much bigger plant,
And
and,
we don't have the land, the
At
usable land.
present time, at Cranberry Valley, you don't have that.
okay,
So,
thanks. Very
You'd
good.
have to do it somewhere else in town.
Okay.
We have the fire chief here, so we need to move along so we don't waste his time.
Any other questions?
The harbor master.
Behind him.
Okay, we're good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you
Very
for
good.
coming.
Thank you.
And as we get closer to, every year I reach out, as we get closer, I'll get you more, I told Roman this already, I'll reach out to an architect that we have used before to get a better idea of what that number may be as we get
For the
closer.
building?
No, for the bunkers.
Oh, for the bunkers, okay,
I deal with construction on bunkers. Building's
Yeah,
not my fault.
Sean, don't think about leaving real soon.
At least call him
He's
my
got a
name.
good plan, though.
Got a plan.
He wants to
Call
play
him my
more.
name.
Yeah. I tell everybody we retire. I'm going to ask Stephanie to come up first, because I think we can get through Stephanie quickly. Is that okay? Hello. Hi.
Stephanie Ridenour,
Intro-
Natural Resources.
Nice to meet you. How long have you been in your position?
It's June.
Since June. Welcome.
Hitting home runs left and right.
Right.
New here, new to the capital plan.
You have
Welcome.
2 projects,
Correct,
and both of them are new.
correct.
Probably because we didn't have it. This is my point I've made every year in this capital plan. When you get a new department head, we're going to have new projects, and people
Incentivize.
have to understand that that's going to happen. Somebody's going to think about things differently. So tell us how you're thinking about these projects.
The vehicle replacement is pretty straightforward. The current department vehicle is a 2008 Ford F-150 that has about 230,000 miles on it. I'm lucky that it's, knock on wood.
Breaking in.
I don't want to jinx myself. It's been getting around town still. But yeah, that is really at the end of its life. I think I'm the 3rd department to have
Have
that
that car,
vehicle.
okay.
And with it having about 230,000 miles on it, I think it's close to its
Yeah.
end of
Okay,
service
so I
there.
do have 2 questions, and these might be for Tony. Here in another vehicle request, it talks about the retirement surplus program is ending. What does that mean?
I'm not sure.
I can
Okay.
Unless it,
that.
Oh, wait a minute.
unless it's the hand-me-down.
People here, come
Yeah.
up to the mic.
I think we can all speak to that because we all have the same.
Okay, yeah, because people are putting that in, and I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So I believe this goes back to what we used to do is like old police cruisers, everything else be handed down to the other departments.
yeah.
With the green communities thing, that's not allowed to happen anymore. I believe Kyle Edson can talk to it better. But-
Okay.
So those old vehicles are no longer allowed to be surplus because they have to replace the vehicle, they have to have better mileage than the vehicle they're replacing or something like that.
So those, it would just go toward the trade-in value of the car. But
believe
this
so.
number doesn't include a trade-in, hopefully, right?
No, that one is,
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and same case for both those, basically, and we've all that are requesting vehicles, and
Okay,
myself.
I just
he can-
didn't
he can speak
understand
for
what
his
that meant.
department. But we've coordinated with Kyle, and the first thing that we check is if there were to be any town vehicles
Not that I think
kinda
this
coming down
vehicle
the
has any
pipeline.
life left in it. I'm not at all
Yeah,
suggesting
but there,
that.
there will no longer be vehicles available that are being retired from service in another department that will be eligible to be used within our respective departments.
and if, and this is related to the green communities thing, you know, we just finished signing our report that we have to do annually. And I'll say, although the Green Communities Act does some good stuff for us, when it comes to things like this, unfortunately, it forces the town to spend money it wouldn't normally otherwise spend, because sometimes these vehicles, though, we're retiring them out of their, I'll say, their main function, for instance, a police vehicle, that still has useful life into it, and we're forced into spending money to
Right,
buy
right.
new when we could still get 3 or 4 years.
I don't remember that. I did pay attention in some meetings to when people presented about the green communities thing. I don't think that
Yeah.
ever came up.
One of the reasons that happens is, so for public safety vehicles, they're exempt, So when you take a police vehicle that's exempt and then move it to, I'll say, a non-exempt department, I think the one that was in that report, and we did it anyways, which I think from a taxpayer's perspective is the right thing to do. I think it ended up out here to support either the building department or whatever. And so they're really pushing hard for towns to stop doing that. So that's where that's coming from.
And then it also says a replacement vehicle which would meet the roadmap to decarbonization specifications. What does that mean? Do you have to, is it a hybrid? Come on up.
I think,
Just
yeah,
introduce
I mean,
yourself.
we can do both at once if you want.
both
But
are.
it's the same standards and also has to do with the planning and making sure that we're meeting whatever requirements there are for green communities. And for that, we would coordinate with Kyle for the sourcing of the vehicle and that whole.
But are they electric, are they hybrid, are they just regular vehicles that get better mileage?
Yeah, John Herka, the harbor master. Good morning, everyone. It is following the Harwich decarbonization plan and part of the green community. And again, talking with Kyle, finding and falling within the parameters similar to, as I was just discussing with the fire department, having vehicles that meet the criteria, not being exempt vehicles. And then for Stephanie and I, finding a vehicle plan or establishing a vehicle plan, just like every other department because of the similarities that we're having with like the police and the fire. So that this is kind of a starting point that we're trying to have going forward. And now we'll be in a vehicle plan just like them for 10 years and then have that program going forward, because there just will not, and this is confirmed from Kyle and DPW, there's just not going to be that surplus anymore.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking what type of a car it is because is Kyle able to maintain it? You know, if it's an
Well, the new
electric, let's
car,
say it
yeah.
had to be an electric car, or I'm not sure what the
miles
requirements
per
are.
Type of
gallon
vehicles,
is
you're
really-
typically not going to get a fully electric, because these
Yeah.
are trucks and
Oh, okay, okay.
vehicles that, it's not like buying a Chevy Bolt or something for the
Right, right.
for the DNR department. So,
Yeah, so the vehicle will be matched to the services that we're providing
Okay.
for the town, which in this case really needs to be a truck for just the.
and we don't have the
nature of our work.
infrastructure either.
Right, that's what I mean, yeah. Okay, because then again, that's sort of an unintended consequence of these green community actions that we haven't thought about or even priced into the capital budget, so.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so I'm good on that one. Anybody else on the vehicle? Do you want to stay up here for this one? Which is, oh, no,
We have
this is
one
the West
is the
Reservoir
West-
We don't
diagnosis.
want
You don't need
anything
that one. Okay. So tell us about this project.
So Natural Resources and Conservation are jointly working on a few initiatives related to water quality. So we are pursuing a similar process, but through community preservation funds for Hinckley's Pond. So we are pursuing alternative funds for this, but I think it's very important that it be on the capital plan and
So you
They're
may,
at- either as a
this may
match
be
or-
paid by community preservation funds, or
We-
no?
We did not put in for community preservation
Okay,
funds for this
okay.
particular one. We did for similar, but just to let you know that we have,
Okay.
if you see other similar initiatives going on, we're working within our, within the town, interdepartment relationships, and then also with other regional organizations on these water quality initiatives. So West Reservoir, it just has really poor water quality, so I don't know if any of you recreate around there, but that was closed basically for several months due to cyanobacteria. So that would be, water that's not safe for kayaking, fishing, drinking, for your dog to drink, any of that. So that's been going on for over 15 years. It's a pretty shallow body of water. We do some monitoring, so we have a lot of water quality monitoring efforts through the department and through contracts, such as with APCC, but those cover monitoring. So basically, we do some baseline monitoring, and if something is flagged through that baseline monitoring, that indicates that we should delve into that further, do a diagnostic assessment like this request relates to determine what management measure would be appropriate. And the outcome of a diagnostic assessment like this would be that it would produce a report, and within that report, there'd be a number of alternatives for conservation, natural resources to look at, see what that costs, see what the outcomes of those different alternatives may be. This is one of the top herring runs in the state, so we have about 1,100 acres of herring spawning habitat, from Herring River that goes up through Rest Reservoir to the upstream pond. So it is one of the most important herring runs in the state. Also, obviously, a very important recreation area for the town.
So we have 60-odd ponds in Harwich, as I understand it. And are we doing this for other ponds, or how do we decide which ponds we're going to attack? Or is there a list, or best to worst kind of
Have
thing?
lots of lists, yes. That's a great question. So the Harwich Ponds profile from the Cape Cod Commission lists 62 ponds. 27 of those are great ponds. So in terms of the town's legal responsibility, there is a legal responsibility, and that's where any liability that we're considering would be associated with great ponds. So again, we have 27 of those that are 10 plus acres.
So there's
that are
27
considered
ponds that Harwich
great
is
ponds.
great
Yeah.
ponds.
And so from there,
62 total.
the amount of access that there is, so some of the considerations would be public or private access, the amount of recreation. We have some ponds that might be large, but no one uses them, no one swims in them, no one lives on them, that sort of thing, versus a pond that has public access. So Hinckley's Pond was identified as the #1 priority. Not only do we have, that's why we're pursuing that right now through CPC, and why this basically came up in second place, and we're pursuing right now through the capital plan. But Hinckley's was identified as the primary issue, I'll say, because of the public access. We have an ongoing order of conditions through the Conservation Commission that the town is currently delinquent on its own order of conditions. We don't really want to have to enforce ourselves, so we're pursuing not just compliance with that, but also the health and safety aspect of it. This one, we don't have an order of conditions on it, but we do have significant, health and safety risks. So I think that the town has an obligation to public health and safety if we have known issues there, which we do. We have testing that's biweekly, seasonal, but biweekly, that indicates levels of concern for human health and safety, pets, wildlife, herring, all of those. That's consistent, and months-long advisory closure that says that it's not safe to be in the water, really.
Okay, so
recreating
what,
around the water.
in this diagnostic assessment, like what kinds of remedies would come out of that? What types of things do they recommend? Like, I know we might not have to do any of them or all of them, I don't know.
Yep.
But what's the outcome look like, or could look like?
An alum treatment would be an example of a treatment that's already occurred in the town of Harwich at a few of the different great ponds. And it really depends on the body of water and what's going on, but it may identify source or non-source pollutants that are contributing to the eutrophication of that particular body of water. In terms of identifying, hopefully I fully answered that, but just in terms of, you asked about how many ponds, and then we narrowed it down to the great ponds, and from there we do monitoring. So when we do monitoring, this isn't, in terms of long-term financial planning for the town, this isn't something that we would anticipate coming up regularly, hopefully through the capital plan. As long as we stay on top of the monitoring, it's probably something that should have been on the capital plan. It's had water quality issues for over 15 years, so that is where really the sense of urgency comes from for that. But going back to the outcomes, so for the diagnostic assessment, if you're wondering why do that, and why isn't it enough to just continue sampling? We have,
Well, where my head is, and I'm sorry, like, I can't get on the plane and move forward, so I'm gonna go back a little bit. But we just spent, or we're about to spend $35 million to sewer around the Bucks Pond area, right? Did we do this kind of diagnostics? Is sewering the answer for this stuff?
Not necessarily. It could be. And usually there are a number of recommendations that would talk about the type of sources that the, eutrophication, that mainly a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus could come from.
Yeah, and I would just be worried on the capital plan, if sewering were the answer to all these ponds, that would be a little scary.
Yeah, so I think if you take a look at the Cold Brook project, right?
Right.
So one of the things with that project, where we're doing some final analysis to see whether the corrections that were done for that were sufficient for its purpose, that would alleviate our need to do sewering in a particular area. So this is obviously a much less expensive way to do it if we're able to. Now this, you notice where I put this on the plan, is it's in planning, right? So as they do their assessment and it yields some potential corrective actions, which would be a lot less in sewering, and if that was to address these issues, or if it's nitrogen loading, or whatever the issue is in the pond, may alleviate the need to do sewering around that area if a less expensive method could generate the same type of results to either, prevent degradation of a body of water or whatever. So Colebrook's kind of like an example of that.
Right, and I would hope that in our master sewering plan, we've sort of looked at what bodies of water would benefit, not just the bay, but, would some of these ponds benefit when that sewering gets done? And is there,
Well, they'll definitely benefit when sewering gets done, but again, we're looking at alternative ways, right, other than sewering.
Right.
That can get you to the same result at a much lower cost than just doing the sewering.
Yeah, I mean, I got up and said, why don't we just put in alternative septic systems over in that area? And if we even bought them at $50,000 apiece for 300 lots, that would be 15 million versus 35. I thought that was a great idea.
Not sure 50 grand's a good number.
Yeah.
No, I just heard that on NPR, that's what they say they were costing. But anyway,
But anyways, yeah.
okay,
So
all
I
right.
think the benefit of doing a diagnostic assessment is it's much more in-depth in the type of sampling that we're capable of within our town resources and within the department, whether it be natural resources or conservation. But they do sediment samples, they do a whole year of sampling to look at the profile and look at the sediment at those different times of year. Another example would be like road runoff. So if
Right.
there's something that you could do, we have a lot of stormwater restoration projects ongoing, and we tend to be pretty good at collaborating on those. So if there's an
Right, right.
opportunity to maybe collaborate with one of those entities, which we already work on stormwater restoration, that collaborates with the town, where we could pursue some sort of stormwater restoration or anything like that.
And most of those, not all of those solutions, but most of those solutions could come back to the capital plan in some way. That's all I'm thinking about, where
Yeah,
that
we should
lands.
assume they
will.
An allium treatment, I don't know how much they cost.
So the
but-
alum treatments, there have been a couple have been done through community preservation funds. So Long, Hinckley's, and Skinquit have had treatments vary in cost, obviously, depending on what is needed for that particular pond. And then there's usually a post-treatment monitoring to look at if that actually resolved it, and then if there's anything further, if you require like some sort of aeration or something of that nature to be installed.
Yeah, and I'd say from a funding perspective, I've talked to the departments about this, is, I know sometimes the easy route is, you look at the free cash column, but as Stephanie mentioned, they look at CPC funding, maybe other state grants, right? So I always put out there who else can pay for this.
Right, right.
Requires a little bit of effort and work, but what you gain on the back end, obviously, is outside money coming in to support some of the efforts that we're doing, and not always from inside, which
Right.
will help us actually do more versus doing less.
Scott's our pond guy.
Just wanted to mention, Martha, that we're going to be discussing the wastewater management plan, the clean water management plan, or the comprehensive water management plan in finance tomorrow evening, because the wastewater management plan actually requires the town to have an oversight body that meets at least quarterly in order to review the progress of projects that have been approved, and also to review alternatives over the next, 4 or 5 phases of the existing plan. And in finance, we're going to make sure that we have a liaison attend those meetings once they're reinstated. They haven't happened since 2019.
Oh, wow.
So when they're reinstated, we're going to make sure, from the financial point of view, a liaison from our committee is looking at the relative costs of different options. And besides sewering, there are quite a number of options that the state has endorsed and encouraged towns to pursue, including alternative septic systems, including urine diversion, and including wetlands restoration, like what happened at Cold Brook, and more recently at Hinckley's Pond. And who knows, that could be an option in West Reservoir as well. But overall, more broadly speaking, many of these options may be cheaper than sewers, and one of our obligations on the Finance Committee is to make sure that those options are being pursued. And that starts tomorrow night in our discussions of that topic.
That's great, I appreciate that.
Scott and I are on a working group locally
Oh,
for that,
good.
as well as,
Okay.
and also members of the health department for the town of Harwich.
Awesome.
Where we
I think
are
we just
working
don't
on
hear
initiatives.
about that a lot. We hear about the sewer project. We
Yes.
personally on this committee hear a lot about what it costs to do the sewer project. We worry about that. But other alternatives and how we can mitigate some of this is just hasn't really risen, at least in my opinion, to the public view. And so it's good to know that, I'm glad to hear the Finance Committee is taking a look at that. And I'm sure, Tony's involved in some of that stuff too.
And just for the sake of time, if you do have questions about that, feel free to contact Natural Resources,
Okay.
outside of.
Michelle had a question first. Michelle, did you have a question?
Share the same point.
I did. Hi, everybody. I just was curious, these diagnostic assessments, do we anticipate doing additional assessments? I don't see anything for future years. And I also wonder, does the state provide any grants or resources with respect to this type of work?
So I submitted an expression of interest in EOI for state grants recently, and then the funding cycle for that is such that the application will be submitted in January for funds. So I'll have, because I submitted an expression of interest, that gives the opportunity for me to actually meet with the people that run those grants and make sure that we're submitting something that is feasible, that has an appropriate timeline and scope of work for that particular grant. And in this case, it's for multiple grants. So that, I think, covers the funding. And the other question I think you had was other diagnostic assessments. So we're pursuing, again, Hinckley's through community preservation funds, and then this, obviously, hopefully through state funds, but we'd like to have.
It's almost like you
plan.
can't know what the diagnostics you're going to need are until you
Yeah.
have an event at that particular
But
pond.
for other ponds, there aren't any in the pipeline other than these two that are priority right now.
Does that answer your question, Michelle? Okay, Ann?
I just have a question about Coldbrook. Is Coldbrook continuing to be monitored? Because it was my understanding, it surprised even the people who put it together how much nitrogen it took out. That was like a side benefit. So are we going to have more information and data coming out of Coldbrook?
Yes, it's not a natural resources project, but they do conduct, post-restoration monitoring, just like we would in the case of a diagnostic assessment
So-
like this.
Yeah,
So-
so we have a company called TMD Solutions that's actually working on that right now, so I actually get updates weekly. So I have a weekly meeting on Monday to go through all the wastewater projects that we have in Colebrook is actually on there. So that work is going on right now to make those assessments of did those corrective actions do what we expected them to do.
And it's my understanding they did more than even they were designed to
Yeah,
do.
well, I
Right,
think
that was
so.
one of the, yes. I mean, in their-
Indications are,
In their
yes.
published material, that's what it says.
Right.
And then they
Harvard
could
Conservation
possibly
Trust.
adjust the next revision of the comprehensive.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
under update right now. It's
Okay.
actually in the process of.
Okay, thank you for that.
Paul, your question?
Yeah, I just
Then we're going to
had kind of a policy question, I guess. Yeah, I realize both of these project requests are for the same year. But yet, you rate the public health and safety as high and the truck as urgent. Is there any reason?
Because if she doesn't have the truck, she can't get around town to do the
Well,
public
I mean-
It's
safety.
going to be Ubering all around town, yeah.
So for,
If push comes to shove, is it still that order, 1, 2?
I think for the truck, we don't have any other alternative funding sources that I know, unless you know of anywhere that wants to donate a truck to
Give us the
Natural
truck.
Resources. I'm happy
See
to
what I've
accept
got in my
hand-me-downs.
barn, I'll
I
see.
can't get hand-me-downs from my friends in fire or police anymore, but yeah, hand-me-downs are welcome. But I think because we're so actively pursuing alternative funding sources for West Reservoir and for just water quality initiatives in general.
And the
And it's been going on for over 15 years, so
in
as much as
parallel,
it
yeah.
is urgent, I think that it's where it should be
Yeah, so-
in the plan and that
I mean-
level of priority.
And how about the cost of the truck? Is that a real, the current, what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully
They're
Well, you could buy a
Remember,
Rivian.
somebody came in last year or the year before, and they said, oh, we're gonna, I think it was Dan Pelletier came in, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna get a truck for like $48,000. I said, where are you getting that truck? Because I'd like one at that cost. It's not happening.
No, not for this, but I think generally in terms of the forms, so the form that has been used in town is just a download from the state. I
Great.
didn't want to change too many things when I got here, because that's just what they're, although Stephanie didn't do one before, so it would be, but from the majority of the part, they're used to seeing that form. I don't particularly like it. I think when you look at the ratings, you know, it's just very subjective, right? So I'm used to a little different type of capital form that's probably more explanatory, gives a little bit more better information, so don't know what the new town administrator will think. I'm sure he's done he or she has done capital stuff in the future, so some of this stuff may change moving forward to be a little clearer and also be a little more informative, I think, but this is what the town has been
And I would
using.
just say, because Stephanie's new, as I said, when somebody new comes in, things are going to come to the top, and I think I feel like it's our job to make you successful in the beginning, and
I've seen the truck.
yeah. I'm not going to argue about a truck.
Welcome to go for a ride. Can't promise you won't need a ride back. But, and just a clerical thing, they are for separate years, so one is for FY '27 and one is for FY '28.
27.
I have them both at
We have them both on the
27.
same.
Should be,
Is that not right?
Let's see.
so I have on the requests and the memo.
They're both in
that-
27.
That the vehicle is FY '27, and then the West Reservoir is FY '28. So for the forms.
But is that right? Because that's 3 years from now. I mean, and if,
So it would be July 20, so truck would be, at least on the form
Maybe
that
these
I
are
have,
fiscal years,
is-
not-
Yeah, is,
Okay.
so July 2026 for the truck, if funds were approved for that. And then for West Reservoir, the timeline would be July 2027. So fiscal year 2028, but it would be July
Right, 27.
2027. And then with results being complete in June of 2028, since it is 12 months of monitoring. And by that time, we would know if we have other funds.
but I would almost advocate, considering what we've just been talking about, that we could learn something that would help other parts of it, that you keep it in the same year.
Well, this would certainly allow us to apply for CPC funds and things like that for next
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
If we did it the way it's proposed, it would give us, you know, a little bit of time to do that.
We need this information to make other decisions.
So do we want to leave it? We're good with leaving it? Or,
Well, they're the experts. Was there a reason why you put in 28 versus 27?
Because we're pursuing alternative funds and we're trying to
so you were going to,
alleviate some of the pressure that is put on the capital plan and taxpayers and that.
But you're pursuing CPC funds right now, correct?
For a
January.
different pond.
For a different
project,
fund, so
yeah.
you're not in line with them
So
yet?
if we did pursue CPC funds for this, it would not be until the next cycle.
Maybe you leave it where it is and then go
So
get
it would
one.
be the same as what's on here, basically, whether it be capital or CPC, it would be on that same timeline. And we also are being cognizant of the ability of those companies like TMDL Solutions, or whether it be them, or whether it go out to bid and the contract go to another company, but really the scope of work that's involved in these and the sampling and what capacity that they have. Because we do, I mean,
between you two.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So
Because
for-
again, what I don't want to have is we put it on, and like we have with some other projects, that we put it on there and get funding, and we don't do it for a
Right,
year
right,
or
right.
two.
it's just that information we've just decided can really help other decisions, so maybe you don't push it off, because it takes a year to get the
I
information.
mean, I
if
think
the-
people will be upset. I mean, I think the community is concerned about this kind of degradation of the drinking water in the
definitely.
ponds, and I think it's
No degradation of the drinking water. I'm going to just say that out loud because
Yep.
Maureen will have a fit.
Yes,
So
no
let me-
Wait,
degradation.
drinking water's in good shape right now.
The drinking water's great.
No, but that,
And just a process, since it sounded like you were curious about the process, maybe, and how that works with, like, where this is on the plan. I mean, when Amy and I collaborate on these, we do a lot of coordination kind of behind the scenes before we put something forward, and we make sure that if we have sort of an ambitious timeline where something's going to be funded in July and we're having work start in August, it's because we've already had conversations and have in place that we know somebody will bid on it, and we know that they actually have the capacity to take on a project, and that we don't put ourselves as a department in a situation where we do have something that gets funded and then we don't have anybody to do the work for that. There are very few companies that actually do this, and we have ongoing projects
I
with
think,
most
I
of
think
them.
you two
guys
decide that, and if you need to make a change to the plan, I think
Move
we're
it up,
good either
yes.
way. I think the leaning is towards sooner rather than later on the committee, but,
It takes a
that's
year to get the
ultimately your
information.
decision.
Yeah, all right, we'll take a, yeah, we're meeting on budget stuff this
Okay.
week, so we'll talk some
And
more.
then I would encourage, if you do have any questions about nitrogen mitigation, anything like that, to just to
So
meet
I
up with me
think
and Amy outside
what
of
we said
capital.
was we probably do at some point want to do a site visit, but we're going to push site visits off until the spring so we can get all this stuff done for now.
Okay. Do you want me to stay up here for Shellfish Lab?
Sure, if you want. John, you want to come on up, John?
Shellfish
So now we're going to move on to the harbor, which has a little bit of overlap with natural resources, as I understand it.
I don't hope there's not a fire in the meantime.
Where we starting? Dredging?
Well, good morning again. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and my name again is John Harker. I'm the harbor master. Mr. Chair, if I wouldn't mind, if I could just take a moment just to give a couple of quick updates.
Sure.
Including Stephanie here. So we've had a bit of a turnover with our staff. John had left in January. I've assumed the position March 31st. Our deputy, Bill Neisner, he actually left in September. So that was something that we kind of knew may happen, but he is gallivanting around Colorado and the Midwest with his camper and having a wonderful time. We're living vicariously through him, so we're very happy for
Like
Bill.
Scott.
Like Scott,
And Andrew Souza, who is our assistant harbor master, fleeted up into that position.
Awesome.
And we
Okay.
filled our other assistant harbor master position with James Adamson. He's a wonderful add-on. And then, of course, Stephanie in the building as well. She acts as an assistant harbor master as well. So with that, Michelle is still there. We're holding on to her as long as we possibly can. But that encompasses and shows just the size of our department and relative to the responsibilities in the area that we're responsible for as well. And the only other things I just wanted to highlight, for this year, the harbor did generate on par $1.57 million in revenue. So that is about the average that we've had. So that was another strong year. Activity was extremely high in the harbor, and visitors were at an all-time high. And I at first thought that was just me coming in and having a shell shock effect, but people did actually say this is one of the most active summers that they've seen in the past decade. So
That's net earnings, right? I mean, that's net.
yes.
It's net, okay.
And with that being said, we have a lot of different projects. With Stephanie up here, we would like to just jump to the shellfish one, but then after that, I'd like to see how you'd want to proceed forward, since we have 3 existing projects were put on the past capital outlay plan. 2 of those were adjusted and 1 had a modification to it. So, but with Stephanie up here, if you wouldn't mind, just like to talk about it. And for reference, the shellfish lab is under the harbor master department being the infrastructure of it, but the operations, everything inside the lab is under the direction and responsibility of the Department of Natural Resources. So with that being said, do you want to talk about it a little, since you have the deeper history? I can find my file here. I mean, do you want to?
So,
We
yeah,
kind of collectively brought these notes together, so.
yes, it is kind of a unique situation. The history of that is really that it used to be one department, harbor master and natural resources, and when that diverged, we maintain this collaboration of building and operations. But the importance of the lab is that it is the propagation facility for the town of Harwich. So there's a long legacy there, not just of the shellfish propagation and where all our seed comes from, but Heinz in his 20-plus years here had a really great relationship with the high school internships, and we're continuing that and expanding the services there to provide educational opportunities, internships, seasonal work for a lot of our local community. But we can definitely do 1 to 2 million seed in there annually. We got about 500,000 there because we're at partial capacity.
So what kind of shellfish are we talking? Just
Clams and oysters. Yeah, cohogs and oysters. But the
Let
building.
me interrupt, just to ask one question. Because I spend a lot of time on the Chipman's Cove and the Wellfleet oystering business. And why can't Harwich do more on the oyster front? And I hear stories, people come to me, oh, I'm getting oysters down here in the town landing, or I'm getting oysters out here in Andrews River, or what. But why can't, it's a tremendous
Well, it sounds like
income
you want
source.
a new shellfish building. That's what I'm hearing.
Why can't, well, can you tell me
I
why?
think part of it is facility. I think we can probably talk about that another day. For starters, I'm a one-person department, so I have a seasonal staff and then some interns and volunteers. But the scope of Natural Resources Department in Harwich covers all of the pond monitoring, all of that water quality sampling, shellfish propagation, harvest enforcement, assistant harbor master duties.
But the shellfish propagation is really clams, right? It's not,
So we do clams and oysters. So
It
this,
is oysters?
Yep. There's just, if you're comparing to Wellfleet, that's a little bit unique. That is, I think, probably the only wild oyster fishery really in the state. In terms of wild harvest, people just don't really like wild harvest. Oysters, it's the only place where you legally can harvest oysters on the Cape in the summer, and that is because of Vibrio, and that is a health and safety concern. And so we follow the DMF guidelines for that and don't allow harvest. But for the facility, like this year, we had 351,000 quahog seed and 200,000 oyster seed. But a lot of that is just capacity. I mean, we were running at 8 out of 12 tanks, and we still did 200,000 oysters this year. But being at 8 out of 12 tanks in a building that's not just in a flood zone, but in the intertidal zone and has some significant issues with the infrastructure. It's not just the building, but we're also looking at, like right now, I'm also applying for CPC funds for that to replace tanks because the tanks are leaking. we have a lot of issues over there.
Yeah,
but,
if I can
mean,
add, like, this building's 1933 it was built, and it was transferred.
That's when it was moved.
And it
Yeah.
moved. And
I don't know when it's
so
built.
I mean, this building in the location that it is now too,
Right,
you know,
Whitman.
it's constantly being flooded. We spent a good portion of the time with DPW, with Stephanie and her volunteers, with our staff, just repairing. You know, when we came
Yeah.
into this building, you know, there was a lot of infrastructure work that needed to be done. There was some reports prior to that, some work lists that needed to kind of be catapulted forward. And so a lot of times while she was trying to run the facility, we were repairing at the same time.
Yeah.
where are we talking about?
At Witchmere Harbor. So if you're not, for any of the committee members that aren't familiar with the facility, it's basically an old barn building is what it was. It was moved there to Witchmere Harbor in 1933. And it was, you know, they packed ice and fish, and that's what it was used for. The town took it over and restored it in 1983. And then in 1994 is when it actually became the Shellfish Lab, the town's upweller facility. So it's been in operation as the propagation facility for the town of Harwich since 1994. I don't think much has changed.
Is that
since
the
then.
right location for it still? If
And
you're
that
going to
is-
build a new one, is that still the right location for it?
That is part of the reason why the request for funding here is for the planning and design, is because we're not sure if that's the right location.
It's flooding
I mean,
yeah.
it actively floods right now. We have photos of that. But so when we look at buildings, you know, if we're looking at where to put infrastructure, and if we're trying to be consistent with our municipal vulnerability plan, with local comprehensive plan, open space and recreation plans, like all of those municipal plans that we have and the guidelines definitely don't allow you, definitely can't do that anymore, put something in the intertidal zone. So if you look at like the FEMA flood zone, if you look at the FEMA flood zone map, you look at, you know, the lines for 100-year flood zone and the 500-year, it's not even just in the 100-year flood zone, it's actually in the intertidal zone. So like when every tide, that building is above the water. And if we get a particularly high tide, combined with a storm, the building itself
So this
actually
assessment
floods.
would help you figure out where you would locate it if you
Yes.
needed to change the location?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
So that's not, it's.
And in
to be
doing
honest,
so,
like,
would
it's
it,
not a repair for the one. We want to move the building before all these reasons functionality, location, I mean,
And would
affordability.
it, would
in the
it
future.
include sort of forward thinking about what the, the environment may change and a new location would take that into account? Is that?
Yeah, and I mean, the permitting sort of mandates.
Okay, okay.
That we consider that. A lot of the permitting, like Chatham's, if you've seen any of what's going on in Chatham with their new facility, I mean, even since they've been permitted, the permitting requirements have changed, so it is very strict on where it can be. So the assessment would look at the feasibility of the current location, alternate locations, and then how far up. But I mean, if you didn't retrofit that building, if you're doing a new building, it would have to be.
And that's
is
that
my understanding with the permitting
2028 request, the $250,000.
Yes.
That's just the design.
That's the
That's for
design.
design and
yeah,
permitting.
Design and permitting for it. So to look at the
But
location.
not finishing it?
No, that's not even
operational?
building
Nope.
it, that's just the design.
Because we would need to know where it should be and what the facility.
We have some ideas of
Yeah,
where we'd
what
like.
are your ideas, since the,
I would prefer, and I think Stephanie concurs, to have it look co-located at the harbor.
okay, so back by the maintenance building or something like that?
Well, it needs to be preferably next to the water, so kind of over on
Oh,
the
by the
eastern
launch?
side. Yeah,
By the
over near the
launch?
launch.
It has water running 24/7 when it's in operation. That's sourced from the
So it
river.
would be in this plan? You expect to do that in the plan?
So you do the
29,
engineering in
20,
28,
30,
when do
31?
you build?
In 2028, we would ask for ideas of where, off of some of our suggestions, being that, for instance, we would like to have it co-located at Sacotuck Harbor for, public access, educational resources, everything there.
Okay.
And then we would probably look to come back with whatever the cost would be. That would be included in engineering design. How much would it cost? And then we'd propose it to the capital outlay plan, probably in 2028 or 29.
But it can't be put on the plan as of now?
I would have no idea.
I mean, you
There's
can't,
just
it's not
no-
an educated guess, just a number, so we know it's going to be there? Is that wrong?
I would
There's
not
so many
suggest that.
variables,
It's
yeah.
so
Having it
variable.
listed on here is enough visibility at this point. You put a number out there, it doesn't really, it's not reflective. So the fact that it's on the plan gives visibility that
No,
the
but,
project
has
is
a
coming.
number.
this to me, Shellfish Laboratory reconstruction, sounds to me like you're going to solve the problem and put a building up for $250,000. And it's
That's not
not,
the-
it's
no.
really not reconstruction, it's just like permitting.
It's design and permitting.
That's
correct.
all it is.
With the inclusion of location assessment.
Well, then.
It does say
maybe we should
engineering.
Change the text.
It says.
We will, remember, I
Okay.
put these in, I mean, they have a whole narrative.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do similar what you see for Allen Harbor, so I'm just going to do planning and engineering.
Okay.
I think we need footnotes to this document that says,
Doesn't include building anything.
right.
The cadence
We know
that-
there'll be a building sometime between 29 and 31, but we don't know the cost, just.
Yep.
And that usually,
Trying to figure
looking
out-
back and speaking with John Rendon too, the cadence that he kind of had was, he put in for the engineering design. And once that's approved, you forecast out 2, longest 3 years for the construction of those. Because once the engineering design starts, that's the
Right.
permitting process, which is usually a 5-year window that you have when you're going in front of we're talking a lot of, the Harbor Master Department's water-dependent structures, right? So you're looking at Chapter 90, all those different types of
Permitting, there's a lot
permitting
of-
for one, so.
As you think about this project, and I know we're going to talk about this in a bit, but we're going to do some repairs on the,
On the bulkhead.
on the bulkhead, not replacing it. Does that inform you as to where it could go in the harbor?
No,
No, it doesn't.
it doesn't. I
Does
think
that
that's
worry you that you
unrelated.
put it somewhere that,
We'll have to move it
These
again?
buildings tend to be upland, and especially with permitting, you're not getting anything permitted to be that close to the harbor, where I think any of the bulkhead information would inform you on that particular
so
process.
it wouldn't be near the bulkhead? Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
gonna be the
I
far
think that it
east.
could possibly be over
Maybe
on the easterly side, the boat ramp is on
Yeah.
that far east, and then maybe down in that fingered part
Okay.
where we could use, because really the lab just needs intakes and outtakes.
It's just that if at some point in the future, that part of the bulkhead, right, that needed to be replaced, that you wouldn't want to
Could be
disrupt
past
what you
that.
just put in,
Right,
right?
I
it's going to
don't-
be past that, is that correct?
Yeah, they're upland, and the way that the water works, we just have very long hoses, basically, that
okay,
go
all right,
out
all right.
and intake waters. Like our intakes right now, I've got, 75 feet of hose that
yeah.
goes out, and the intake itself is actually under the dock behind one of our commercial guys' boats. We have two pumps out there, so we have sewage pumps at the end of the lines that I maintain.
Okay.
And the other thing I think to note, similarly to the other projects that the project I just discussed, is that we are pursuing alternative funding for this. So I also put in an expression of interest for grant funds, even for just planning and design. I think there are alternative funding sources that could be pursued for planning and design and for the actual construction itself once we have an estimate. So we want this on capital outlay, but I'm very actively applying for grants.
Okay. Yeah, no, we appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think for the committee, I mean, obviously, it's hard to start putting footnotes in here, but you all have a copy of this, right?
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
I mean, that, as I read it, it mentions it's for engineering and permitting. Do you have the narrative letter? Or
No,
only the
no,
sheet?
we just have the sheet.
So let me get you the narrative.
Okay.
Because that'll be helpful to answer
Right,
your
right,
question
right.
about.
Okay, perfect.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on this project?
No.
Now you're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, now tell us.
So, moving forward, I'd like to ask how you would like to see the project. So we had the three projects that I wanted just to bring up that were on the original outlay plan from last year. One being the Saquatucket bulkhead replacement,
Yeah.
Herring River boat ramp repairs, and Allen Harbor jetty repairs. Allen Harbor jetty repair, we have proposed to move to the right over a couple to 2028. The Herring River is still on course, and then the Saquatucket bulkhead replacement is now going to be a repair from a recommendation from the department. So out of those three, I didn't know if you wanted to start with those or just look at what the proposal is for 2027.
Can you give us an update on the bulkhead project? Because I think
That was the
we
big
went to
one.
town meeting believing that it needed to be a replacement. I personally found out on town meeting floor that we went,
Yeah.
a total replacement.
Yeah.
I went to on town floor that night at town meeting. I learned it was going to be a repair. It's something that was maybe known long in advance of town meeting. And so how has that, we budgeted $770,000
For
for engineering, but you didn't spend that money on engineering for the replacement, I'm assuming.
Correct.
How much did we spend?
Well, if we can go back to
Yeah.
the history again, so John last year had come up with the recommendation of pausing and looking at and getting some additional engineering done or overview done to see what the validity of a replacement versus repair is.
Right.
And that was presented last December to the select board. On January 17th of this year, the report did come out, and it did express that, prior to the discussion, there was concern on what the longevity was. This report kind of
Right.
showed that there could be a 10-plus year extension of life if adequate repairs were done to certain components, soldier and batter piles, et cetera. So that report kind of surfaced in January, and with that report, we kind of started the conversation with the prior town administrator, and we concluded that looking at further and allocating some of that $770,000 towards a pivot to repairs was warranted. Now that's going to save, because the initial cost of the replacement was around $9.5 million. When I talked to the contractor, they said realistically it's more like $13 to $14.5 million for repair. So with that, we have out of the 770, we transferred over into a purchase order at the end of last year, $73,900 for the contract to begin on what the repair would be, what the repairs would kind of articulate into
So
and
the
cost.
73.9 was for engineering or for actual repair?
Contractor.
73,900 was just for the engineering and design.
Okay.
For the
and
repair.
permitting.
For the
For the repair, yeah.
For repair.
Okay.
So that, in that town meeting article, number 15 of last year, the remainder balance is $696,100.
96. Okay.
So, and that money, where is that right now?
Well, it'll sit in the article.
Sitting in the article, yeah.
And is it come back to the town in free cash when we?
No, article money, this is why we're looking at all old articles. So article money stays in an article forever until you go back to town meeting to do something with it.
Correct.
Could be to repurpose it for another project, it could be to return it back to free cash if that was the funding source. So there's a number of options when you have leftover money articles. So John and I have talked about, you know, what potentially we might want to do with the leftover money to either support another project or
Or the
what have
maintenance.
you, right? So, but absent town meeting, that money will stay in there forever.
Right, which is what I
So it
kinda
has to
didn't
be-
want to see happen, you know, like,
No, that's why I'm reviewing
Yeah.
every, I mean, we have projects that have closed out that still have money that, again, it'll stay in there forever, so I'm
Right,
doing a
right.
deep dive into
but
all
will
of that.
this go towards the repair? Is that,
Is that the idea?
Again, there's all options available. Now, if the repair is not coming for a while, I don't know whether it makes sense to tie up that for that versus something else, but we're probably not at that point yet in our analysis. So, again, one of the directions I gave all the departments was to look at all their capital articles that are out there and identify potential, you know, money that can be freed up. So give me an example. In DPW, they've identified, you know, probably 250,000 that will be able to repurpose come May.
So on this particular one, that 696 towards the repair gives you the 10-year plus extension for what you now say is a $13 million possible bulkhead replacement project that last year was a 9-point-something, 9.2.
9.9, yeah.
9.9.
The 696 is still sitting in that article for a replacement. That's the article is
Oh, it's for
designated as
replacement.
replacement. We
So you have
did
to go back to town
take
meeting?
out some of that, again, that 73,000 to
For-
then shift it over to the engineering and permitting for the repairs. Now, I did get an estimate from the contractor for the actual repairs, and their estimate roughly would be about 2 million.
2 million.
But we have 2.5
I
here.
put 2.5 in there because then there's going to be contingency, there's going to be, you know, the bid servicing, all the other add-ons that are going to be put into the actual contract. So that's why I pushed out and projected, again, you start with engineering design 1 year,
Yep.
and then 2 to 3 years thereafter you do
Yep.
the construction. That's why I put it to lay in 2028.
I just want to make sure, though, on the 696,
Yeah.
the way that the article was written, it was for design and engineering, not for any construction work.
Correct.
Okay, okay.
And that's why we use it for
The
design.
only way that it can be used for construction work is if it goes back through town.
Or use it for
town
any
meeting.
purpose.
Right.
Has to go back to
town
town
meeting.
Okay,
meeting.
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And
We
that
found-
purpose, that follow-on purpose will be part of the article. It'll say where you know, what we're repurposing, what it was for, to now we ask town meeting to now allow us to use it for X.
Okay.
Whatever the X happens to be. So I'm looking at all that, you know, to see where, you know, where it makes sense to repurpose some of this
Okay,
money.
okay. Any other, I think we're good on this one, right? Any other questions on this project? Okay. Then you brought back the existing projects of the Allen Harbor jetty replacement. It's moved a couple years out, and it's increased in cost, which makes sense.
It does. Let me just pull this up real quick.
But it was failed.
This is a unique project, being that it has been looked at for several years. I believe in 2019, John contracted out to have them look at the repairs and look at what would be the options, and then the engineering, and then the costs. So with that being said, it was introduced to Select Board in August of 2022, and the discussions were around the different zones of repairs and what would the different options were. And those, again, in August of 2022, it was voted upon on what they wanted to see, what the options were going to be for the different zones. Zone A being kind of the inner side in the channel, Zone B being that extension out towards the end of the inlet. So we have kind of an agreed upon design. We know what the permitting is. The permitting has been a little bit on hold because we haven't been firm with when we wanted to move forward. And the plans are in place for the most part.
So John did take us out on the boat, right?
We saw
And
that.
our understanding was the inlet was private property and that the town wouldn't be responsible for the inlet. And I don't know if
Oh,
that,
inside the harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
am I not remembering correctly, or is there a part of the harbor that I'm not?
There's some wooden piles there that stick up that are on private property. We're talking more about the structural part that
Of the
actually.
That's
jetty?
along as you come into the harbor, that.
Correct.
On
The
right-
jetty
okay,
itself.
As you're going out
actual
on the right
jetty
side,
part,
okay,
And then
okay.
there would be some additional.
Maybe it was the dredging that the
It was the
private.
dredging on the inlet.
Okay, we'll talk about that
Dredging
later.
is
Okay.
a whole nother
Okay,
thing.
got
So-
it. Now I remember.
But being said, I did walk back to GI, our contractor, and ask what would be the updated cost in regards to materials, sticking again with the same design that was approved upon by the select board in August of 2022. And that cost increase in their mind, looking at the cost increases over the next couple of years would be that 3.65. And then that was really done at an escalator cost at 5% per year, which is basically a 1.5%. So a 2029 cost would be that 3.65.
So there doesn't need to be engineering before that because you have it. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that this is construction money, the 3.65.
Correct.
And-
We still have an existing PO open for this engineering design.
Okay.
Okay.
John, does the
And then it
town
relates to.
own the entire area of Allen Harbor? Or is it in part privately owned, the harbor itself, the access points, the marshland and so forth? Is that all town property?
I do not know the answer to those because there's many different touch points of property there. You said like the marshes, the beach.
Well,
There's a lot of private properties around there. And I mean, the jetty we do just because it's within the tidal zone. So, but besides that, I don't know all the different
There has
property.
been through the years some talk about private participation here in the cost of maintaining that channel versus, let's say, Saquatucket and Witchmere.
There has been.
That would be more the dredging
Dredging,
side. This is
Well,
just
I
the
mean,
jetty.
dredging, I think, is, maybe state, I think of state money. But I'm talking
Not anymore.
about just the improvements to the access into the harbor, which seems to be part of the plan here, whether it be jetty replacement or whether it be boat repairs and so forth.
Is there some financial participation from the yacht club
For jetty repair?
or any of the maintenance or anything over there?
That's because it's infrastructure.
Okay.
So it would be hard to tie any kind of responsibility to
But
them.
mooring costs, you benefit something, the town benefits,
Yeah.
does it not? Or who gets the money from moorings in Allen Harbor?
Well, the department receives the money for moorings, and then moorings, those fees, some of them go into general fund, some of them go into our mooring reserve fund, which is one of the two funds that the harbor holds, 1616 and 1621 funds. We have a water users, and then we have a mooring revenue one, which includes half of the excise tax and the mooring fees.
Phrase it then, are all moorings in Allen Harbor owned by the town and covered by the town? Either you get some fee or you rent it out to someone and they get a fee? I mean, is there some control that the town has, or are there moorings in there that go to the yacht club or go to the Allen Harbor
That's correct.
Marine Company or whatever?
That's correct.
It's all
So
split up.
can you divide those out for me? What, is it a third to the town, or how much of those moorings?
I don't have that exact number right now. I know that we manage as a town 600 or 599 moorings.
But not in Allen Harbor.
Part of it's in Allen Harbor, but I don't know the fractionality of in between the
Okay,
three
but my
entities.
question is it not therefore conceivably some responsibility of the owners of those moorings, which provide annual resources to somebody, to cover some of the costs of maintaining the harbor facility, whether it be the channel the access ramp or sitting there in the water as
That's
a
a-
place to
that-
moor your boat.
Yeah, good, very good point, and that's the purpose behind those separate funds that we hold. And there's a mooring revenue fund that we use specifically, and it's per our harbor management plan. It's defined in there. It's to be used for such things. It could be used fractioned off for the boat ramp. It could be used for improvements in the harbor with our dockage. It can be used in a multiple amount of ways, and that's an answer we give back to the public when they ask us, where are those fees going towards? Now, that's a fraction of what we could, last year alone, our balance and our mooring revenue, last year, I think we made about $70,000 to $80,000, so that's towards a $3.6 million project. It would be smaller. We like to kind of show a little bit more tangible efforts.
80,000 where? Throughout the harbors?
Throughout all of our
All the
moorings.
harbors. So let's say 20,000 from Allen Harbor, just as a figure.
Sure.
What would you would estimate would be generated from other moorings in that harbor? Another $40,000 or $50,000?
I don't have that exact number right now because they're fees and yacht club, and I'm not, yeah.
You probably wouldn't have anything wrong in
No,
appealing
it's-
to these other sources to pony up some funds here?
Is the bigger question how much of Allen Harbor is really public access and how much is private? Is that the question really underneath?
But I don't
I
think
think it's perceived, maybe I'm totally wrong here, but certainly Saquatucket is a virtually town-owned operation. I think of Witchmere Harbor as virtual. I mean, there's probably a handful. I used to have a mooring in there that I paid to the boatyard.
I'm going to move us along because I don't think it's going to get us anywhere, but
Well, it's
maybe
going to
it
get
should
us
get us
somewhere
somewhere.
if we can generate some additional
But
money.
maybe that's a discussion they should have when they're talking about revenues and that. I know you're not happy about that, but I want
rest
to
my case.
I just want to keep it going because we're not going to solve it here.
Well,
It's a question to be answered.
So,
I don't know what we're here for then. If we can't ask questions and try to find ways to
Scott.
make changes to my purpose is the
It's to split you're saying.
useless.
Okay.
no. Scott,
Let me just, I think the general question, which would be perfectly appropriate to come up in finance, is the sharing of costs for activities that benefit relatively small portions of the town's population. And that's kind of why I asked the question about the golf building. I understand it's a town facility and therefore it would be in the town's capital budget, wouldn't come out of golf revenues like the bunker replacement project does. But I just think about public perception of people who golf, people who have boats in the harbor. Those are the people who probably can afford to pay less than the average Harwich citizen. So I think it's a valid topic for finance to think across the town's operations, both capital and regular annual expenses. Where are subsidies being provided by the taxpayer to small subsections of our population? And to just see if there are ways of more fairly allocating those costs, either capital or operating, to those small sections of the population. I don't think it's necessarily a great topic for here, although we do pay attention to funding sources. But I can assure you that I will be bringing this up in finance as a generic topic that we should explore over the next few meetings.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Right on point.
there's our solution.
Subsidies for small.
Okay, let's move on to an existing project, which was the Herring River Route 28 boat ramp replacement. That's been on the books for a long time, and now we're here at the point where that is going to happen, and it doesn't look like it's changed in dollar value. It's still the same project as I understand it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So are there any questions about the boat ramp replacement?
No questions.
Dredging.
Okay. Maybe we need to start charging people dollars to use the boat ramp.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then the rest of the asks are new to, at least, were not on the plan from last year. So
Why don't we take them one by one? I'll let you pick which one you want to go to first.
If you wouldn't mind, Ms. Chair, we'll do the dredging article.
Sure, I'm sure that's
Yeah.
going to elicit a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I just want to be clear, before this or currently, the dredging funds lie within our operating funds. So there wasn't an article in place this year or the last year. The last time an article was in place for dredging within the town was in 2016.
For the
And
harbor.
That's when, and that actually was a 2-year for 16 and 17. Some of the bigger challenges that we've had with dredging is the cost increase per the county. So we use the county dredge services. They increased in a 2-year span from $9 to $12 per yard. And then in 2024, they went from $12 to $26.50 per yard if you use the jumper, which is basically an additional way to move the sediment to a different place. Say further down a beach, you add another $2 to that per yard. So that is a significant increase for us. Also, there's a discontinuation of the Mass Dredge Program grant through the Executive Office of Economic Development. This was a pivotal part of balancing the budget for the harbor, being that it was a 50% match. So that is discontinued and will not be afforded to us this year or any year afterwards. In the last 5 years, the consistency of dredging has been not consistent. And that is probably the biggest reason why we're looking at pushing this to an article, being that, as was discussed before with the Gulf, having it in an article will allow funds to maybe be used the following year if they're not used the entire year before, and creating a little bit of a safeguard. Right now, our averages, if I was to take our 3 major harbors, Witchmere, Allen, and Saquatucket, look back at their 10-year average, which is roughly about 18,200 yards for the 3 combined. The cost at 26.5 per yard is $482,300. That's not accounting also for Round Cove. You had asked before, I think in the past meeting on the 22nd about Round Cove. That's every 5 years, and that can be anywhere up to 4,000 cubic yards. So that's where we kind of, I think an article is a good way moving forward for the town. I think it's a safe way going forward for the harbor. And then understanding this year, Saquatucket it's usually an every year dredge. This year we didn't do it. Witchmere is every other year. They did it last year. This year it had to be done again at the same volume. Allen Harbor is usually an 8,000 cubic yard every other year. This year we only did 2,470. So the variability and unpredictability of dredging, an article makes the best sense for the department.
So I'd also say that dredging is not an operating expense. It's used in every community that I found that does dredging. It's part of the capital. And what you end up doing is, especially with unpredictable costs, is you're going to strangle the operating budget. Number 2, as John said, money that was allocated for dredging, if it doesn't get used at all or doesn't get used in full, it disappears, right? So think of it kind of like Chapter 90 money, right? We get Chapter 90 money every year, but if Link's looking at a project that could be $2 million, that money's allowed to accumulate to pay for a bigger project. So there's a number of important reasons to put this as an article, not the least of which it's not an operating expense.
So to that point, it clearly, from a dollar perspective, is a capital item, but you can't depreciate dredging, can you?
No, but think of it as, I mean, I don't think we depreciate paving projects either. I look at dredging as the roadways, right, of the water. Now, we also have legal requirements to maintain, navigable waterways and things like that. So, there's a number of criteria. The depreciation of it is just, that's an accounting thing. But again, with the predictability of it, or unpredictability of it, and the cost, and the fact that it's, like I say, every community that I've, researched, dredging is a capital item.
So it's going to be every,
And while this,
Remember, you're not necessarily doing even though you may do dredging every year, you're not dredging the same thing every year,
Right,
right?
so we've added this.
And the operating budget for dredging has been around 400,000, so we're not really out of the ordinary in this request. It's just the
Yeah, we're
bucket of
just moving
money.
it to a source that has no financing at all. Like, we have no guarantee that we're going to have any money to pay for any capital items every year. And so now that's in my opinion, it's just in a riskier pool, as long as people understand that. The more things that get added back into the capital plan, and I'm not opposed to it, but we just need to find some resources to fund capital in this town.
Well, but we do, I mean, we have resources every year. I think, because I heard this at the select board, I think some people think that, like, we're never going to have, like, free cash, right? Well, that's.
No, but it's not a guarantee either, right? Like,
No, but if we stay with our financial policies, right, and we understand what our overall general fund operating budget is, and we stay with the financial framework that has kept us in, I would say, relatively stable financial shape, and obviously our AAA bond rating, that, something major would have to happen for that to disappear. But I'd also say that we need the flexibility, right? So when you put things in the operating budget, you have zero flexibility
no, I don't
in
disagree.
terms of how you pay for things. So in this particular case, not only the accumulation of funds, but in the past, some of the waterways funds that John is also a funding source. It's not always free cash. So in the past, funds have come out of the waterways funds to support the dredging program. So remember, that's why I have all these lists up
Right.
here of.
I guess, Tony, what I heard at the select board meeting was more an undercurrent, and, this is just me assuming, so it doesn't mean it's right, of let's tighten up sort of how much free cash we have and make it available to the operating budget. But at the same time, if we were to do that, it leaves the capital budget more exposed. That was my only, and maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. Maybe there's not a desire to do that.
I think in the long-term view, right, so we know where the sweet spot, where we want to be, right? But if you look back in prior years, I mean, there were years, I think we had a free cash number, 7 million.
Yeah,
We have, yeah.
That's excessive when you look at what the size of the operating budget was
Yeah.
back there. So it's not just looking at what we did in FY '25, but overall, trying to put more fidelity to our estimating skills. We're looking at other sources of revenue that can also help the operating budget at some point without having effective free cash. So I
yeah.
think as we look at the overall financial program for the town, you can't just, put a soda straw on free cash and a soda straw on capital and a soda straw on the operating budget. Not the capital committee's job, but between the select board and the town administrator and the finance committee, is we now have to look at the overall umbrella of all of that stuff and how, a little bit here, a little bit there, right? How does that all blend together so that you keep capital healthy, keep our free cash healthy, and by the same token, you keep our operating budget healthy.
Right. But, like, I can get around the roadways, like, they're going to last, let's say, 20 years, right? So you take out debt for those. But when you get to dredging and taking out debt, I probably have less.
Well, I'm not saying we're going to
Right.
borrow for dredging.
Right. But when it comes into the plan, that's always an option, and it just makes me a little nervous, that's all.
I just want to put something in perspective, ma'am. We last year, John had to go to town meeting to budget an operating expense for dredging coming this next winter.
Right.
We have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, right now, we are budgeted for 400,000, but if we go on course and we have all the harbors meet their 10-year average, that's 482,300 without a 50% match.
Right.
That's the risk I see in having it lay in the operating budget versus as an article.
Okay, all right. Any other questions on this? Okay, so those were the ones, okay, so now which one do you want to go to next?
New,
Maybe we'll start,
ones.
maybe.
We're still on new, now we're on
We'll
new.
I still have
The newest
vehicle
vote.
replacement as well. Nothing different from the discussion with Stephanie, being that this is a retired police vehicle, 2015 with 180,000 miles. And as we've seen, and discussed with the vehicle manager. It's kind of, it's ending it will ended its life at the police department, and it's ending its serviceable life in general. We've had somewhat of a cadence again with vehicles at the harbor we've gotten kind of the hand-me-downs from the different departments. We actually have soon to have 3 of ours at DPW that have been deemed unsafe to be driven, period. And that's happened, 2 of them, and a 3rd one will happen here in the next couple days, but the other 2 have happened just in my tenure being at the harbor. So, we're really looking at jumping in and having a stable vehicle plan, just like the other response and first responder departments. Similar vehicles, these are kind of our toolbox going forward, and all of our staff uses them. They have all the equipment on board that we need. They're used for towing, they're used for responses, rescues, so on and so forth.
So you only have 1 vehicle, but you just said there are 3 that are,
We had 1 vehicle replaced last year,
okay?
and then this will be our final vehicle that'll be replaced. We have a crane truck that, so basically a truck with a little bit of a crane on the side of it. Kyle has asked me to put that on our vehicle plan eventually, and I said, why don't we just wait a couple of years? They just redid it. DPW will be picking it up either today or tomorrow.
Now, within this 5-year plan, is that up for replacement? Does it need to be in the plan, is what I'm asking, in year 4 or 5?
Plan, we should put it on there anyway.
Potentially at the very end, I would say, in the
So-
2031.
So the way that this works is, or the way the select board likes this to work, is that you just pick up the year and you move it forward and nothing changes. That's how they believe the plan works. So I would at least put it in 31.
Okay.
Put a number in there with some sort of inflation that because it's not going to cost $80,000 in 4 or 5 years. It's going to cost more.
The crane truck is a different vehicle versus the one that we're asking for.
So just I would put it in.
Okay.
If you think it may land in this 5 years, we want to at least have visibility on that.
Yeah, I'll talk to Kyle about
And
that.
realize the cost will be, a rough estimate.
Then you're only fighting for inflation costs, which somebody can't say, oh, you can't, that doesn't happen. You've got it in there in the
So
plan.
send me the specifics of what we're, year, model, make of the one we're replacing.
Absolutely. It's a common vehicle on DPW, so it'll be
Yeah.
short.
Let's
short
have it in the
fuse for us
plan.
there.
Paul, do you have a question?
Not on this,
Okay.
but I do have a question. And that is, how about the watercraft? Is there no replacement forthcoming on anything with your fleet?
Yeah, there are.
I have,
25.
we can move into the next one.
That's new, right?
Madam Chair, if you're ready.
Oh,
for
is
it.
Yeah,
it
we're
on
ready. I
here?
think we're ready, right? Any other questions?
That
We'll
wasn't
go
on the
next.
plan before.
I can,
Didn't
if
see
you
it on
if
here.
you wouldn't mind, I can.
Martha, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Where
This
is
Scott. I have to switch
Oh, the whaler.
to the phone. I'm
Okay.
going off video, okay?
Yep. No worries.
The boats
Sorry
are
about that.
425 and the boats are new, correct?
Yes, both of them are new. And I can couple them together a little bit, but I'd like to start off with probably Long Pond first.
That's the easier one.
That's the easier one. The
Oh,
less
okay.
value, I should say, not easy, because they both serve the same missions of search and rescue, mooring verifications, water sampling, dive operations, cooperative mutual assistance with different departments or towns. Even this summer, we had several calls where the Long Pond Harwich boat is the only on-water response boat for all of Long Pond, so we did a couple assists with Brewster. And all we're looking for is replacing this 1972 Boston whaler that from the records that the chief and I could find, we adopted it in 2014. He has no idea when they got it.
Okay.
I think it was, real quick, just to add some factual information I had. I believe it was David Blank, Fire Chief. It was original to the department in '72. I know we installed the center console in it probably around 1995. And so it's definitely, it served its purpose for both departments. And when we got rid of it, because we upgraded our boat, John Rendon was looking for a boat for Long Pond because they didn't have a suitable boat up there. So that's how this all transpired. But the town has definitely gotten its life out of that boat.
So just part of Long Pond is in Brewster, correct?
Yes.
Do they
provide any services, or how does it all land on Harwich?
Brewster does not keep a boat, right?
Right, they just don't keep a boat in the water. There's a big difference between trailering a boat and having one in service in water.
Right,
You know, we
right.
can
It's
drive
more
up, jump
important
in
to
the
have it in the water.
Any incident, any rescue incident in Long Pond, Brewster and Harwich respond to together, because we never know whose town it's actually going to be in.
Okay.
So they will respond, and they respond with a boat. It just doesn't,
Not in the
they have
water.
to trailer, put it in the water. So the last operation we had there, our boat was up and operating much faster than theirs was.
And the additional recommendation for this vessel is, it's a bit of an upgrade. It's not a 1974, it's not as small as this one is. You know, it would be somewhat of I looked at like a 19-foot Carolina skiff. It can carry more than 2 people. Right now, 3 people on the Boston whalers. It's hazardous. I will not allow it for any of our operators, so we can't conduct dive operations. We can't conduct different operations of that sort. You know, nighttime operations, I want to have multiple people, you know, with different night vision goggles and outlooks and all that kind of stuff. We just can't do that mission right now, and multiple other missions, so that's where I see a replacement is warranted for Long Pond.
So you get a call and the boat is in the water, it has a dock somewhere, I'm assuming, or?
It's a mooring.
A mooring,
At Fernandez
okay.
Bog.
And then you're responding and you're responding? Okay.
Well, I can talk about that as well, and that kind of goes into
That's the
the
big one.
additional boat request. We've been working with the fire department very closely since I've came on board, and this extends from a relationship that I had with the fire departments, police departments, harbor masters, well before I came into this position. And one thing that I've known, and I had a very good relationship with the prior fire chief, Norm, and one of the things that I've known is that there's a need, but it's a unique need per town for cooperative work with the harbor masters and fire departments. And knowing Dave over the last couple decades, working with him on different projects to include a notification process that we use now throughout the Cape for any kind of search and rescue on the water, I approached Dave and I said, you know, I would like to look at layering our on-water response, knowing that, as I said before, our department consists of myself, a deputy, an assistant harbor master, and Stephanie when we can grab her when she's available, which is all the time. She's wonderful. But really just 4 of us. So, you know, it behooves us to look at, we have a response asset on Long Pond. We have a response asset in Round Cove. We have 2 response assets in Sequatucket Harbor to cover all of Harwich's shoreline with only 4 people that, if we're all standing in the right place, can respond at the same time. So we worked with the fire department since April. We've been doing every Thursday training when weather permits. We have over 300 training hours with those individuals that we've kind of designated softly as like a marine response unit. So with the replacement vessel for Sequatucket Harbor, it falls into the same mold. The difference, though, with Sequatucket Harbor is, yes, we have 2 older vessels, but we have 2, and I would like to make a combination of those 2 into 1 with a new, more modernized, capable vessel that can perform all of the missions. Right now in Sequatucket Harbor, we have a pump-out vessel that really just does pump-out duties, but can be used for search and rescue. That's a 2010 vessel, and then we have a 2014 vessel that is an Eastern, 27-foot, has capabilities as well, but we're training on multiple vessels. I'm training the fire department on 4 different vessels right now. The primary response that we've seen over the summer, being 90% of our response cooperatively, was out of Sequatucket Harbor. And for the harbor masters too, the assistants and the deputy and myself, having standardization, having 1 vessel that we're training on, it only benefits the harbor. So this is, again, it falls into like, what's your 10 to 15-year plan, John? Well, you know, we want to have these projects move forward. We want to have vehicle plan moving forward. We want to have a boat replacement plan moving forward. So we're trying to level set those at this time. And again, using the fire department, working with and training.
Sorry, you can use me.
Yeah. Just creates more layers for us and more force multiplication for the town.
So is the Long Pond boat in the water year-round? No.
No, we've taken it out, but we keep it at the ready. It's basically on the trailer, not winterized.
Okay.
And we do have a boat, the fire department has a boat that we use for dive operations. It's suitable for Long Pond, but again, it's going to be a delay. It responds, but it's going to be a delayed asset to get in the water. It's a very good, it's a safe boat. It's a very good flat bottom boat for dive operations. That's what we keep it for. Just to kind of dovetail with what John has talked about, the Eastern was bought in 2014, was a cooperative purchase. It was a replacement of a old fishing boat that had been government surplus, or for lack of a better thing, the Commander, that the Harbor Master Tom Leach had put in service. And we bought the Eastern cooperatively with John Rendon, and it was a multi-mission boat. It was fire department and also moorings and also anything else that John had to do, towing and all those other things. And these are my words, I'm not going to say they're John's words, but it's a little bit like a blivet. When you're trying to design something to do so many things, it does them all, but it doesn't always do them well.
Yeah.
What we're looking for now, what John is advocating for now, is a boat that's really designed for safely putting our people in a rescue mode out of Saquatucket Harbor, and where I'm putting firefighters that don't necessarily have the boating experience that the harbor masters will have, but are trained. To me, the safest vehicle that we can put them in, the safest boat we can put them in for that mission, for all weather, for all seas, is critically important. So certainly something that we started with John Rendon has expanded a lot more with John Harker, and we stand as fire department 100% behind going forward.
This is new, though. It's new.
Well, no, he's going to, well, it depends.
The
He's
425 is
replacing the
new.
boat on Long Pond with an upgraded boat.
Correct, and that would be a separate funding.
Right.
that
And
would-
then he's taking 2 existing boats for the harbor and buying one boat that's a better quality, purpose-driven boat, I'm going to call it.
But from a capital perspective, that 425 is new this year, is
Yeah.
that correct?
Yeah.
Correct, and the.
And
And the
it's-
65.
And it's urgent, and it's right in the front of the plan.
Correct. I mean, what we're dealing, this vessel is, the make of the vessel, or the manufacture of the vessel is, it's an industry standard. It's something that's used around Cape Cod. What's unique about what we've done is going to be a first ever that has a pump out service.
And he's waited until the useful life of all
Boat
the
is
other
done.
boats are sort of done. He's not asking for it and the boat's 5 years old or something.
And again, the resources that we have at the department, funding, manpowers, I mean, they're stretched right now, because if you think about the 3 of those boats, 1974, 2010, 2014, and the 2014 one's a year-round boat, so you can take off another 10 years of abuse that it gets from being in the water 365. We're at a point now where we'd like to level set and get the right resources back at the department.
So what is the useful life of these boats? Just,
It's very dependent
boats
on.
aren't like cars, you say you hit a certain mileage and they're no
You're done.
longer useful, or so many years in the water and that.
Size, make, freshwater, saltwater, there's many variables, use, maintenance. I mean, we're using so much funds and so much maintenance time, man hours right now to maintain these 3. It's really not a cost benefit.
But I mean, well-maintained, I mean, you gotta be looking at probably 10 years, I would think, not 3 or 5, correct?
Well-maintained vessels, they last 10 to 15 years.
Okay, okay. Any other questions on both? We're going to wrap up both boats.
No question.
Okay. What do we have left?
Fire chief.
Oh,
I don't
are
know
you
if-
done?
I don't
You're
know
done?
if I'm
No.
done, actually. No, I have 2 more, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, fire department. We have,
You have equipment and furnishings?
we have Allen Harbor boat ramp repairs, engineering, and permitting.
That one.
This proposal is off of recommendations and observations from the public and the department that the Allen Harbor boat ramp is starting to deteriorate. So again, we're looking at forecasting, getting some engineering, permitting, design for repair, with then a 2 to 3 year post award of that being the actual repairs to the boat ramp. And just to note, the Allen Harbor Boat Ramp is the 2nd largest public ramp in Harwich. The parking lot and bulkhead went out for project bid and construction in 2013 and 14. It was, the boat ramp actually was part of that bid, but it was removed at some point and was not done. Partially maybe because of the grant money that was going, and there may have been some guardrails as to what would be provided with the grant money, but that was not included in the large work that was done to the bulkhead and the parking lot in 2014.
So we have, just so everybody knows, we have two projects in fiscal year 2028 that are engineering and design without a estimate for the actual construction that would happen a couple years later that might fall into this plan. I just want to make sure we all understand that. Okay.
Trying to think, I think to Paul's point about trying to get maybe more visibility in that. So let me work with John to see if I can add 2 lines for the Shellfish Laboratory in this to see when it would be likely to actually be done.
Yeah.
And then, as long as the committee, everybody understands that those costs will be soft.
Right, and I almost feel like, and I get we do this a lot, is we put the number in there, like if we were to do the replacement of the bulkhead, right, that was in there at, call it 10 million roughly. By the time you get the engineering done and you get to the project, it's 13 million, right? And I think everybody just unfortunately knows that's the way it works. But not having that 10 million in there just understates what we think we're going to need.
What I get
So
when,
it's a shock.
excuse me, when I talk to the engineering firms, once we get a way forward with engineering permitting, they'll give me a ROM with a 25% contingency cost to
Right.
it. I mean, Tony and I can talk about it a little bit more about maybe getting some soft numbers.
Yeah, and we have a little bit of time, we have until, I think we're looking at December 12th for the joint meeting. That's the Monday.
Like the 29th, maybe.
Oh, you're going that far out?
Going?
Happy New Year.
I mean, only voting on the 10th. I don't know if we can do the 12th, right? Aren't we voting on the 10th?
Well, we'll talk about that
Okay.
later. Yeah.
But one of the things I've encouraged the departments for these bigger projects is to do the planning and the engineering up front.
Yes.
For instance, the DPW facility, was in
Definitely.
27. I'm like, where's the number coming from?
Right.
Because what I've seen is if you go to town meeting for the construction and you don't have a set of renderings and plans.
Or quote.
Yeah, or you run the risk of, even if you get approval, that when you do that work, finally you don't have enough money.
Exactly.
Right, and the engineering is supposed to inform you about whether you can
Correct.
do the project, or whether you can't do the project, or you have to do it differently, or what all the
We'll-
components are.
We'll see if we can place that in here.
Awesome.
At an appropriate year for that, so, okay.
Any questions for the harbor master before we dismiss him and say thank you for your first year with us? We appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, Michelle has a question, sorry. Michelle?
Yeah, just a question of clarification. So for the boats, are you asking for 3 new boats or the 425,000 harbor boats, is that one boat?
Yeah, thank you. The 425 is one boat. I've gone out for a design on it, so that's a pretty firm number. And
Okay.
probably go down if I would like to maybe take a couple of the options off that I don't need. I can put my own light ring on. But,
Yeah.
but that's to replace 2 boats, so we'd go from
Okay.
1
And then the Long Pond boat replacement, are you going to replace it with the Boston Whaler or some other boat?
a different boat, larger in size with a larger crew capacity, so we can do the things that we need to do.
Yeah.
The
Yes,
moorings,
got it.
the search and rescue,
Okay,
the
so
dive
it's 2
operations.
boats. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're running a little late, but we're going to get there. Come on up.
Anybody want to take a break?
Yeah, no. Oh, I don't think we allow breaks.
Yeah, and we have never,
We don't want to make you suffer, so if anyone wants to take a break, please, feel free.
Still have a quorum, right?
I lost Scott.
Oh, he's there. He's supposed to be on the
Oh, he's on the phone. Okay,
Calling
okay.
number 3.
I'm here on the phone.
Okay, great. We're moving on to fire. Hello, how are you?
Good, you guys?
good. Maybe introduce yourselves, and what I'm asking people to do is, if they have new projects, to just identify what's new on the plan versus what's been on the plan
Okay.
That we already know of.
So I'm David Blank, I'm the fire chief. This is Deputy Chief Thornton. And I'm actually going to turn it over to him. Craig did the majority of the work on this. I just told him what I wanted, so.
Sure. So here we're looking for if we've changed anything on the capital plan.
Yeah.
So FY '28, we did add an engine to replace the engine at headquarters. That was a new addition. And we did add in FY '29, I believe this is an addition, a fire inspector car replacement. Right now, the inspector's car is probably 80 or 9,000 miles, and we're looking at getting it on the plan, so we can probably look at replacing that. Headquarters reno was on there.
Yep.
Yeah, everything else I think was on
Yeah,
there.
and then in FY '31, we added a brush forestry truck replacement. That would be for Forestry 6-7. That's right now at Station 2. It's 2005, I believe. I'll have to look into it. But figured we'd get it on the plan, start looking forward to it. It's probably, going to get long in the tooth for maintenance. So, so for next year, the ambulance is on there that we've had on there, and the monitors, the EKG monitors to replace them is still on there. We did try to apply for assistance to firefighter grants over the last 3 years, and the funding now is completely shut off for us. So we've tried, but so at this point, we really probably need to just put it into capital and have those funded and replaced.
Okay. Any questions on the cardiac monitors?
No.
Okay.
Just,
That's good.
Just to add that those are both at end of life and end of service contract with them, so they're the new models out,
Have
so
to
they
do it.
so they no longer, it's
Yeah.
what they always do, design obsolescence.
And one of the questions that you guys had asked me last year was, is there any type of leasing options available for
Rich
the
always likes
monitors?
that question.
Yeah, and I reached out to the company and I said, I asked the question, and they do offer two options. It's just they're not financially beneficial to the town. They both equate to the same amount of money at the end. One's $285,000, and the other option, two, is $294,000, and then you don't own them.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
have to have some type of process to own them at that point. So
And they can charge you anything.
I really didn't think that it was a great response back from the Stryker company, so it's not really worth it for the town, I believe.
Okay. Can we talk about the ambulance?
Sure can.
Just remind me what the process, because last year we had 2 ambulances, right? And part of that was the timing of buying them and
So
still a
what
process?
we did so the change was last year. So we've done a every other year ambulance replacement since we added the 3rd ambulance, which was about 1996. And then we added a 4th ambulance, and we still kept with the every other year. So the oldest ambulance is 8 years old when we're replacing it. When we ordered, last year, when we ordered an ambulance, it had a 3-year replacement, a 3-year build time, which
that's right.
was going to screw up the replacement cycle so badly that we went back and we said, last May, which would not have been an ambulance year, we needed 2, because the mileage will be so high on the fleet by the time the 1 gets here that we needed the 2. The good news that happened in all of that was that the 2 went from a 3-year build time to a 2-year build time.
Okay.
And 1, which is not due for another year after, from this spring, they were able to, either cancellation, and they were able to move that up. So we're actually going to get the first one that we ordered in 2 years. Then we'll get the other 2 another year after that. But meanwhile, we kept the program the same for replacement because we don't want to fall behind the 8 ball again. So this should now, we'll have a young fleet of ambulances, and the 2-year replacement program should work, marching them out so that we're bumping up on 200,000 miles on the ambulances.
So you get your first ambulance in 27,
Get the first one in 27.
1 in 28.
We'll get 2 in 28.
What, is that this one here?
Oh, the 2 that we ordered last.
Okay, so
Will
there was
arrive in
one
28.
already in the pipeline,
Yeah.
okay.
And then if that other one's back at a year replacement, then we'll be back, we'll end up with a 4th ambulance being about 4 years old when it goes to last. So we'll get a little bit ahead of the game.
So in 29, you'd get another one?
Yep.
And then you'll have a more modern fleet, if you will?
Yep.
And then
have to be,
You won't have any, your next, and you're still going to continue.
Yep, yeah, we're going to stay on the every other year because that works, that has worked really well.
Okay.
So we may get to a point where like that first ambulance replaced will be little bit young to be replaced, but we'll get right back into that groove of them lasting 8 years.
So you're
Yeah.
just really catching up from all of
Yeah,
the...
we're catching up because
supply chain
the
issues.
fleet is old right now.
Okay.
And, Kyle said, they'll run past 200,000 miles, but the service on them becomes a lot more.
Okay.
And we're just trying to keep them running.
Well, and then they're more modern. Michelle, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just curious, do they have any kind of salvage value, or do they just go to the?
We trade them in. It's usually trade as part of a contract, and it's like $5,000. It's a minimal.
Nothing.
It's part of the price when we work it out. It's really minimal. They'll end
Got
up.
it.
They did gain a little bit more with the delays of everything that came out. They were a little bit more valuable for a period of time. We didn't trade any in that period of time.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah. So it's not. There's no value to us, and there's very minimal trade-in value. But we do capture what we can.
And my assumption is that all of these are being modernized, at least from the inside, if you will, as they're being upgraded.
Yes.
So we're keeping up with whatever the new, I'm going to call it technology, but I don't know if it's technology.
And kind of twofold, there's also a standard, there's 2 standards out there that ambulances have to be built to. And so by 8 years, we're to maintain the standard. It's good as long as we own it, but to keep them current with the standard and what the changes are, we're also capturing that, so.
And remind me, are you doing more trips or more calls?
yeah, Howard,
We steadily increase, we kind of plateaued a little bit, but we're doing about 2,800 to 3,000 transports a year, or medical calls a year, about 2,100 transports, I believe, so.
And yesterday, the shift officer came off shift this morning at 8, and they did 25 calls yesterday. I think 23 of them were medical calls, and he had worked the night before, and they did 10 transports after 6 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock in the morning.
That seems like a lot.
That's a lot
And
for
we
us.
actually, which was a feat which is crazy, we had 4 ambulances on the road
Yesterday?
twice yesterday,
Wow.
which is impressive for us. I mean, that's a tall ask of the department.
So
Yeah.
one of the things we're looking at potentially is, creating a, lack of a better word, an ambulance fund.
Yeah.
So part of the program in the fire department is what's called certified public expenditure, and it allows fire departments to recapture the difference between the cost of what's charged to insurance through Medicare and
Oh, okay.
and what they fund. So generally speaking, we're recapturing anywhere from $130,000 to $150,000 a year, something in that range, and it changes year to year or whatever it is. But and because it's specifically related to the service they provide, and that money doesn't come in until basically like June 30th, right? It's not a revenue.
So you do the work all year and you don't get paid until June 30th?
Well, you put the
or something?
application in for the
Oh, wow.
prior year, and it's a federal program, so
Okay.
you gotta go through all the wickets, but the check usually comes in June. But it's not a revenue source that's gonna go into the budget, right?
Right.
And so the thought process is that I've used in other communities, you take that money and put it in the ambulance fund, and it builds up. And so as we get ready, again, it's another source of funding that can again go off, to be an offset,
To
at
the
least for
cost of
some of the
the
cost to replace our ambulance, since the money coming in is directly related to the cost of the
Yeah, and I feel like we need to do more of that kind of stuff in town.
Well, I'm here.
Thank you, Tony. We need to find whatever those revenue sources is, and
Yeah.
I know it's not in this
So many
committee,
towns
but,
didn't do it.
yeah,
So many towns just, because it's paperwork. These guys
right,
put in
right,
a lot
right.
of effort.
Right.
We started doing it in 2015. We hadn't done it up to that point. And I think the first year we did it was about $100,000, and it went to a high of about 190, and then we've seen it kind of fall back, and there's a variety of reasons. Our fleet's old, so we lose depreciation on the fleet.
Yeah.
Fire stations are old, we lose depreciation of the fire stations. And one of the other things which we're addressing is our ambulance billing. We haven't adjusted the fees in so long that the difference between what Medicare will pay and what we charge is smaller, so there's less to recover.
Right.
Go after
So,
those fees.
So anyway, so we're looking at every aspect to help the taxpayers.
Every
and help
pocket.
keep everything
Yep.
going.
Appreciate that.
That's great.
All right.
Okay, so we've got the ambulances are good. We've got The EKG monitors are good. I don't think we have any questions on the out-year ambulances, because that's just putting, I mean, the costs have gone up somewhat, I think, roughly.
Yeah, we're just using a 5% increase factor. It's a ballpark. I can't tell you, it changes so much.
Yeah, who knows what, what that's going to end up being. Okay, so we're done with ambulances, unless anybody has any other questions, which I'm not seeing any. Okay, so you take us next.
Next. Pumper, yeah.
Pumper's in FY '28, and kind of the same reasonings that we had put the pumper in play this last fiscal request was the length of time it's taken to build the fire engines. It's anywhere between 2.5 to 3 years to 4 years out. And basically, at 15 years old, the NFPA recommends that we kind of put our fire trucks in a reserve status.
Are you calling the pumper the fire engine? Is that the same thing?
Yeah. So there's two kinds of fire engines. One has water, one has ladder. Well, three
Okay.
kinds, because we have
Okay.
one that has both. So the pumper is the engine, has water, has hose, it's what fights the fire. So we replaced one in May. We approved, actually just went out for
Right, didn't we just do
pre-construction.
one? Yeah.
Yep, so we went out for that. We expect to see that in 18 months to 2 years.
Okay.
And then this one, kind of where it is with the rest of the fleet, catches us up again where, unfortunately, we bought two close together. We bought them in 2012 and 2014.
So you're replacing.
we're reaping that now, trying to fix
Right.
that, and we're going to fix that going forward.
So this engine would take about 2 years to come in?
Yeah, probably closer to 3.
And can you just remind everybody, like, how many engines you have and how they're situated?
Okay, so
Sorry, I
we did
can't remember this.
a little bit, and we're going to try and undo that with this, so I'll explain a little bit. So in 2012, we bought what we would call a Class A pumper. It has 500 gallons of water, a pump, hose, and has some ladders on it, not a lot, like portable ladders that we can throw. So we replaced one in 2012, we replaced another one in 2014. In 2018, we were scheduled for an engine replacement. The budget was tight, and the chief at the time decided, we went through this process to buy what's called an urban interface. So we'd had the really big flooding at Morris Island and Chatham. We were getting those really big storms, and we had a lot of rise in water. So we decided to buy this urban interface. It's a 4-wheel drive truck, addresses some wildfire issue, but also lets us get into either snow or deep water. So we bought it, and that's been the second engine at Station 2 for a couple of years. In 2019, we did a 2-for-1. We replaced an engine and the ladder with what's called a Quint. That got delayed a couple of years because of COVID. We finally replaced it and went into service in 21. And then we bought a mini pumper that kind of augments that. It works really well with the Quint. When the primary engine's out of service at headquarters, we let the ladder truck do
When did you buy that mini pumper?
2020? 2 years. 2 years, 22.
23? 23?
23.
Okay.
So the plan would be the urban interface truck, while it was a great idea, just really functionally doesn't work well for the department. It's very high. Getting in and out of it, it just doesn't work. So what the plan is when we get this new engine in 18 months, 2 years, we're going to actually trade in or sell the urban interface outright. That money will come back to the town. So we'll maintain the same number of vehicles that we have, and we'll keep one of the other Class A pumpers, the 2012 and the 14, as the reserve truck.
Okay.
And so we're not going to actually increase the fleet. We're still going to trade in a truck. We're just trading in one that's a little bit newer, but really functionally doesn't work for what the department's trying to do.
Okay.
And then this new one would replace, then we, again, it would replace a truck. That truck would go away. The 2014, the newer of the two Class A pumpers, actually has higher mileage on it than the 2012,
Okay.
just because of the way it's been run. So that's actually going to go to reserve status, and the 2012 will stay in service for the department to meet its needs. Explain all that right?
I think so.
And maybe they're different for each type of truck you have, but roughly how long does a truck last?
20 years is their
Oh,
life
it can?
expectancy.
Okay.
That's the life expectancy according to the NFPA, and that basically they say 15 is when you really need to start looking at replacing it.
Because it takes a lot, yeah.
And wasn't there a 10-year to go to reserve?
Yes.
So once you get this one in 28, that's going to come in 30 or whatever,
Yeah.
29, end of 29, you don't have any others that you need in the next 5 years? You're good?
No.
Okay,
I would-
okay.
I would say probably 31 or 32 in the plan. There'll be another one, and that will be to correct.
Going to have to be 32, because 31's in this plan.
So that'll be to correct the two being bought
That
close
one
together.
that
You know, that'll,
not
so we
functionally.
can space them out a little bit more.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Questions on fire engines? Okay, we're good with that one.
So FY '29, the ambulances, and then we have the fire inspector's car. That's a new addition.
That's
And
the
it's pretty self-explanatory.
$100,000.
It's just, the fire inspector uses it on a daily basis. It's got about 80-something thousand miles on it. We figure within a few years, it's going to start needing some more maintenance on it.
And is there any, is it just a standard vehicle, or are there modifications that you have to do?
So all our vehicles are response vehicles. If he's in the area, he'll respond to a call. So probably what we will do, because we've always kind of done this, is a little bit of the shell game of it'll probably replace one of the chief's vehicles, and we'll kick one of those vehicles down to him. Because, both of our trucks now have about 20,000 miles on them, so at that point they'll have 40. So we'll probably do that, and that just keeps the fleet fresh. And ours, which are primary response vehicles, it's just kind of a secondary response, can have a little bit higher mileage on it. So that's typically what we do, and that would probably be what we would do here.
And then any of the outfitting of those vehicles, you all do, or does it get done at
It's included. It's
part of
in
this?
that
That's why the
price. Yep.
price is maybe higher than what I would
Yeah.
see a Ford Explorer normally.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I was trying to get at. Okay. Questions on the vehicle for 100,000? Okay.
That's crazy. Like a year, right? Forestry truck.
Yeah.
That one.
Do you want to go to headquarters renovation, or?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's where we are, the renovation. 'cause
We're just kind of forecasting what potentially we're going to need to look at with our current headquarters, where it's 30-plus years old. And with our staff increasing, we've kind of run out of room. And we kind of need to look at having a plan in place where we can upgrade the HVAC system, maybe move some walls around upstairs, the day room, that kind of stuff, where it's really tight right now. So within a few years, it really kind of needs to be looked at, where we can look at maybe some renovation. There's not a lot that can be done because of.
Without making it a large project, putting an addition on, we're out of headquarters. It's 30 years old, which is crazy to me because it's the new fire station, but it's 30 years old. We're pretty much out of room. If we're full shifted, there's not a lot of space. So we're going to have to be creative in how we make that work, and that's kind of what this addresses without.
And do you work with Sean Libby in terms of
100%.
figuring this out?
I resubmitted the number, but this is,
Yep.
I talked to him about the number. So it's,
How exactly would you expand the living quarters? If you're not, you're just moving some walls around and making something else smaller, is that?
so in existing headquarters right now, the common area, the kitchen, day room area abuts there's a weight room next to it. So what we'd probably end up doing is moving the weight room out of the second floor and then expanding into that space for that area, because that area is where we're bumping into growth areas, concerns. We do have to discuss, we were just talking about this morning, like, there's only room for so many personnel in there. It's like 7 right now. So if we're doing expand staffing at some point, we're going to have to figure that out. And by the time we get to here, we may have a better idea. This is one where I'd say it's in there right now as a plan, where it may change to scope to like a design, where we actually have to
A
have.
bigger project.
Yeah, bigger project. And, I don't know. Right now, it's hard to predict. I see our department growing in staffing, just based on the fact that the way we operate is changing. I told you, we staffed 4 ambulances yesterday. That's with off-duty personnel. But that model isn't working. It's broken over time. But
And what's the capacity at the other station?
we can fit up to 5 on duty out there. And we have 3, so we still have some growth out there. But it's not necessarily just because we don't necessarily
You don't have
need
the
5 out
equipment
there.
in the right place with the
Right.
right people.
Right.
I think some of the challenges too, just where the department is, there's site challenges if you're, unless you go up.
Right, right.
There's some
Right.
site
Correct.
An
challenges.
antenna that's there.
Yeah.
with
And
all
the way-
cables.
What about
the
that
building
big
was
lot
built-
that somebody was going to build all those housing on that got turned down? Can
No,
we-
they're now using.
And with the way they added the in-law apartment on, also known as the police station, with the way they added that on, like, we can't expand that way, and that's where the living quarters are. They're on the second floor on that side of the building.
Right.
So we're kind of up against it a little bit. It would take a professional, if we were really going to expand it, which is not what we're talking about doing right now, to really look at that. But the HVAC, Sean Libby's done an amazing job of getting it to work better.
So are you replacing the whole HVAC, or
No,
are you
what we
adding
would do
mini
is
splits?
in their individual rooms that they have,
They
we would
change
put
it.
mini splits so they have better climate control for their individual spaces.
Okay.
And then the main second floor would just still operate off the big system.
And just remind us, what's your staffing? Because you're talking about growth.
So each shift right now is staff with 9. So there's a
9.
captain and 4 firefighters in headquarters, and there's a captain and 5 firefighters in headquarters, and there's a lieutenant and 2 firefighters at Station 2.
So your total staffing is
36 on shift.
36?
And then 4 in the admin, well, 5 in the admin.
Not on shift, 36
Yeah.
total.
36 total, yes. 4 shifts of 9.
And then 4 admin.
And 4 admin. And then, are you still able to recruit and?
Yeah, we're actually,
And housing? Are you at full?
we had a gentleman leave to go to the town of Orleans, and we just closed his application. We had 60 applications.
That's a nice.
Wow.
Minimal, some are minimally qualified, so we now have to sort through, what that is, but we did get some high bar qualified applicants.
Because you'd been running short before.
We have not. We've always been able to maintain, but we are, so I'm going to tell you 2 things.
Like this way.
We have our full complement of 40 people. We're at
Right.
39 right now because Josh left. We also have 8 people out.
8 people out.
Yeah, a couple of maternities, one illness, well, it's a surgery, but it's not work-related,
Right.
2 work-related injuries. Yeah, so we're, those are all challenges that we're dealing with, but we are correct, we have not had trouble recruiting and maintaining our full complement of personnel.
Okay.
We just can't keep them in the building.
Or health.
The challenges with because this happened to my nephew, who's a firefighter paramedic, the challenge with the injuries is the doctors don't want to send them back quickly because they
re-injure.
They re-injure, so they tend to be up for a
Yeah.
lot longer than you think.
And we have had, all 3 of those that are out, 2 work-related, 1 not, they're all surgeries. So they're,
Right.
we're looking at 12 to 14-week
Right.
recovery times, and,
Yeah, those injuries are tough.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Any more questions on, the building is kind of like more to come in the future,
Yeah.
that this might be a bigger
Placeholder.
project.
Placeholder.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, boy. Okay.
All right.
You got to do it.
Last one was the
truck,
brush
yeah.
truck, and that's just looking at, this is a 2005 Ford F-250. It served the town for the last 2 decades. It's a great little brush truck, gets into the back areas that we kind of need, but, FY31, we're looking at, it's probably going to need to be replaced. There's a
So
lot of
did we
rust
buy
on it.
something recently that we could use, sort of like forest fighting?
The mini pumper.
The pumper, because it has
the pumper
water
can-
on it, right?
Yeah, and it can do kind of both things, but this brush truck's a little bit shorter, and it's a little bit more lifted. So
Okay.
when you're getting into places like Hawk's Nest, you're getting into places that are a little bit more remote. we
But
can-
it doesn't have water on it, so if
Yeah,
it...
it does.
Oh, it does,
But it's got a
so it
small-
will.
small-
Okay.
The other thing I think is important to remember is that the brush truck is actually the old animal control officer's vehicle that we took and we modified. We put a flatbed body on it, and it has what's called a skid pump, which is, it's a water tank and a pump that you literally can take off and put it on another vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
So that skid pump that's on that truck is probably 40 years old, 30 years old anyways. It's been moved from truck to truck to truck. And the mini pumper was not always a mini pumper. It was a dog catcher's truck. Now it's ours. So it's been repurposed, and again, it's another vehicle. We've gotten a ton of use out of it. That was done by Charlie Truck. They used to run the DPW before Kyle took over. That was like a home built project by them that they did. So we definitely captured some value out of it, but it's time to go.
It's time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or in 5 years, it'll be
5
time for
years.
it to go.
Hopefully.
Question on the forestry brush replacement. I just asked the question, which is the same I asked to the police, is there anything in technology-related things that may come into play in the future? Things like, I asked about drones or something like that,
horizon?
So I think that we have a pretty good, so we use a lot of technology. One thing I think we could see change is our mobile data terminals that we use to connect to our dispatch. So we're kind of using a cobbled together system. It's an app that their dispatch software connects to, but it doesn't allow for like two-way communication. True MDTs, I can press a button on it and it'll tell the dispatch center that I'm on location or I'm clearing the call. This doesn't allow for that. Part of their upgrade to their CAD system at our dispatch center is I see us maybe expanding that CAD use a little bit. We're using iPads right now. It works really well, but it's kind of a cobbled together system. That would be something that would be some expense, but most of that expense would come from as an operating cost.
Oh, rather.
And probably be part of our contract with dispatch. So we pay them right now, well, this year we paid them $124,000. That number goes up, which will include the licenses.
They like provide you the equipment.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we may buy the computers, they provide the license because everything's got a license.
Right.
So there's that. We've looked at drones, to be quite honest with you. The sheriff's department runs a drone. Chatham Fire has a drone. Sandwich Fire has drones. I don't see the need, nor do we have the budget bandwidth to add that program in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of training involved.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah, no.
get authorized by FAA.
Sources.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's one of those, like, why reinvent the wheel? Like, we have people
Yeah.
that have them that we can get quickly.
I just worry, me, the way I think about it is I worry about this at my house, like, there's woods back there and it's been so dry and,
Yeah.
the forest fire thing is the thing that is just the unknown kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, any more questions for the fire department?
Thanks, Chief.
Did you, no?
Thank you
Paul?
for your
No?
patience.
Thank you,
We ran late.
Thanks, you guys, for your time.
Always a
Have a
great,
great afternoon.
thank you.
great conversation.
We learn a lot.
So our next meeting is next Wednesday at 11, same time.
Keep forgetting to bring the list of who's next.
Yeah, it's probably everybody else because we're seeing the
Everybody else.
school on the 2nd.
It's actually we changed the date of that one.
Well, yeah,
Oh, it's the
from the
second.
3rd to the 2nd,
Yeah.
yeah, so can
Okay.
we talk about the, at some point, we need to get the joint committee on the calendar so people have it circled up, kind of a thing?
Yes, please.
I ambitiously put it on December 29th because it's the last day of December.
Don't do that.
Just wanted to make sure we had enough time to.
Our meeting is the 10th, and then the next select board meeting is the 15th.
12:10 is our vote, right?
Yeah, 12:10 is our vote.
But our next meeting is the 19th, correct?
Let me just get to my calendar.
What I have, yep.
Yeah, the 19th, and then we meet again on the 2nd,
Right.
and then we meet,
On the 10th.
We're not meeting
On
on the
the 10th.
26th?
No, we're not
No.
meeting on the 26th.
you get Thanksgiving off.
And then and you're talking 12:12, Tony, did I hear that right?
12:15?
12:15 for the joint? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the early.
Worst case, 12:22, I
Right.
guess.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I
Yeah, we'll
mean,
make sure it's on one of
15 would
those.
be good, better.
And that's a joint, so that hopefully we
Yeah,
can
just
get all
making
those
sure we
people
have enough
together.
time from the 10th to put all the information together. So I haven't done that before, so I don't know how much work that is.
So I usually, I do the schedule of the changes, which I can show you what it looks like if you want to just see it from what I did
As long as
last
somebody's
year.
doing the work and it's.
Yeah, I do, I usually, I could do it now and then just update it as we go forward. You're going to make a couple more changes, but,
Yeah.
I could do it over Thanksgiving, and then we would just have the school to
So
do.
we'll keep it for the 15th right now.
You did
just-
it as a volunteer, and then
Well,
now it
because-
became your job.
no,
It
but- well,
it makes
I
a lot
think-
of sense.
Everybody asked what changed,
What changed?
and nobody was, I did it for myself the first year, and nobody was prepared to answer it, so I answered it, and then they were like, well, we can't see that here, so then the next year I
Yeah,
said,
we
all right,
have
I'm
to
going to
do it,
share it
yeah.
with everybody, because
Okay.
yeah.
One thing I did just want to draw everybody's attention to on the plan that you all have. So I did meet with Mr. McMillan last week for the schools. Remember, I had to cancel, and then
Oh,
we got.
yeah.
So what you'll see on the plan now is the projects as they currently exist for the elementary school.
Okay.
And you'll be able to ask him questions on
Can
the
I
second.
just say one thing? I got that. It kind of got lost in a bunch of emails, and I didn't send it around, so Michelle and Scott didn't get that.
Okay.
But it was just the Harwich Elementary School that got added, and there was nothing electric there that was going to upset anybody. But you'll get it in the next round, you'll see it, so.
And these projects listed on
Okay,
here,
thanks.
yeah, and these projects listed on come through our assessment. I mean, there's no
Right,
funding.
right.
You know, that the
We
town-
pay 100% of that
Yeah.
We pay
but-
100%, but it comes through the assessment.
debt servicing, right. Yep.
You won't see it as a,
Are we going to take a look at the regional district, or you
did that
don't
go
have
over?
plans for us to do that?
no, they're going to brief it all.
Okay.
I didn't include it because I didn't want to confuse town meeting with that. Because
Okay.
again,
Yeah,
that all-
that's fine, but you will send us that information when we.
Yeah, I hope before he does his presentation, I'll get his updated, I have one copy, I don't know if it'll change, that has all the school projects in it, including the high
The
school and the
roof
middle
and
school.
all that stuff they're doing. And are they going in front of the select board anytime soon? or
They did
were
last week.
Oh, they did? I missed
In
it.
terms of the,
Oh, their capital plan, that doesn't happen till the new year sometime.
yeah, they just came to talk about the siding project,
Right,
where
right.
that stands, and they talked a little bit about the middle school roof
Right,
replacement
Right,
project. So,
okay.
Yeah, the rest of it will come later.
All right, after a long meeting, would somebody like to make a motion? I gave you that.
Oh, you,
Yeah, that was presented at, Tony did a great job and his team,
The select.
at the last select board meeting, and in there is the debt, sort of the existing debt and how it flows off.
yeah,
So-
we'll be putting that online.
Very good.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
On the website.
Yeah, so you can see that. That will help us in sort of, can we afford this thing? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion
Take a
to?
I'll move the motion.
Paul,
I'll second.
Ann seconds. Michelle?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye.
Paul's aye, Ann's,
Aye.
Martha, aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.